What's good, y'all? It's your boy 100, aka Chaz, aka Orion. We about to get it in. Man, this video right here is about the truth about the history of Islam and the Nation of Islam. I could give you a big, long introduction about why I'm doing this video and how, important it is for you to watch this video and all that. I'm going to skip all of that and get right into the information because there is a whole lot of information to go through. There are a whole lot of receipts to go through um, pertaining to the real, truthful history about Islam, how it started, who's behind it, and what is the agenda of Islam as well. So, without any further ado, we're going to get right into it. Okay, now let me go ahead and share my screen, minimize me a little bit. All right, so we can get into this heat. Okay, if you haven't already, man, hit the like button. Hit that like button right there, family. All right. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the time to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. So whenever I do videos like this, you will get the notification as soon as I post the video. All right, now let's get into it. Now, history of Islam. First off, let me start off by saying that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. All right. Um, you can't talk about Islam without mentioning the Arab slave trade. Just like you can't talk about Christianity without mentioning the Crusades or the Atlantic slave trade. All right. Now, Islam is the fastest growing religion due to imposing forces, due to force, not because of truth or validity in the religion. All right. Now, the Quran says many things that are absolutely not true. All right. So it's not like people are joining the religion because the Quran is just coming with all this truth. I mean, the Quran says things like the stars are missiles that God uses to keep demons from getting into heaven. It also says that sperm is produced between the backbone and the rib. You know what I'm saying? So when it says things like that, I mean, you really got to take the Quran with a grain of salt. Okay? Everything that's in the Quran with the grain of salt. Now, let's get into this Arab slave trade, which is basically one of the main reasons why one of the main reasons why Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. Now, when I mention the Arab slave trade, you probably are thinking about something that had ended maybe hundreds of years ago or a couple hundred years ago or something like that, right? But the Arab slave trade is actually still going on to this very day. Africans are being auctioned off. Africans from Libya, Africans from the Sudan. I mean, Africans throughout West Africa are being kidnapped from their native lands and sold into slavery. Okay. Now, like I said, many people believe, especially Muslims, believe that Islam is an African religion. Well, it is for those Africans who are forced into the religion. Okay. Now, I'm going to go into, hold on, let me set this up real quick. Now, what I want to show to y'all as I come back. Now, what I want to show to y'all is proof that the Arab slave trade is still going on to this very day. Y'all may not believe me when I say that the Arab slave trade is still going on to this very day. And I'm not talking about it, they just switched it up like how we did over here in America. We switched it from antebellum slavery or antebellum slavery and went to mass incarceration. You know what I'm saying? And to the whole employment industry. I'm not talking about that type of thing. It's not like they switched up the slavery. I mean, they still using the same slavery that they were back in the day. Okay, and they're forcing Islam on those slaves, and they're getting rid of their native languages and forcing them to learn new languages through Islam. All right. So what I want to show y'all as I get my clips together real quick is that the Arab slave trade is alive and well to this very day, and you have to see it for your own eyes. And I want to show you guys this stuff before I get into the history of Islam. All right, so let me pull it up real quick. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this video, and I'm not even gonna say much during this first part of the video. All right, I'm not gonna say much as I play these clips because there's two clips I want to play. All right, and I just want you guys to take it all in, and I want to set the tone for how I'm going to come at this Islam doctrine. Okay. All right. So as I'm pulling it up, here we go. And
I must admit that I too, among hundreds of millions of
all right, cool. Sorry about that, y'all. I didn't mean for it to play right away. But I'm just setting up. I'm about to come back, and I'm going to actually take my screen off and just let it play. I'm not going to say much. I'm just going to let the video play so y'all can see for your own two eyes, what's going on in the Middle East and what's going on in Africa. All right, here we go.
Educated people was under the impression that the African slave trade was the sole responsibility of the Christian Europeans, the white race. That is, until I started exploring the subject in greater depth, and especially after reading an incredibly enlightening book called The Legacy of Arab Islam in Africa by John Alambila Azuma. My whole perspective and understanding has changed dramatically, and I would like you to tell us more about this subject.
The success of Muhammadan Islam in deceiving, misinforming, deforming, and contorting both history and reality over a period of almost 1400 years has been astounding. That is, until now. The greatest tragedy about this particular subject is that most of the descendants of African slavery, the black people in the Americas, around the world, as well as among the African blacks, are totally ignorant of the actual facts. Before we lose the concentration of our listeners, I would like to make the following statement and then prove it. That the worst, most inhumane and most diabolical institution of the black African slave trade was initiated, refined, perpetrated and implemented by the Mohammedan Arabs and later aided and abetted by the black converts to Mohammedan Islam. I predict that, as usual, the two subcultures, those of denial of facts and of political correctness, will attack us without once disproving a single statement and or conclusion that we make. Slavery was not created by the white races, because it has existed throughout human history and practiced by every tribe, culture, civilization, racial group, and religion. In fact, the very word slavery has its root in the name Slav, based upon the Slavic peoples of Europe who were subjugated by other Europeans. It is not common knowledge that the Arabic word abd is synonymous with the meaning of slave. For example, Abdullah means literally the slave of Allah, and that in the language of the Arabs, all black peoples are called abid, plural, for slaves. While much has been written concerning the transatlantic slave trade, surprisingly little attention has been paid to the Islamic slave trade across the Sahara, the Red Sea, and the Indian Ocean. While the European involvement in the African transatlantic slave trade to the Americas lasted for just over 3 centuries, the Arab involvement in the African slave trade has lasted 14 centuries, and in some parts of the Mohammedan world is still continuing to this day. The birth of Mohammedan Islam and its conquests brought about the birth of institutionalized, systematized, and religiously sanctioned slave trade on a massive and global scale. In fact, the Quran allows the taking of slaves as booty or reward for wars of aggression against any and all unbelievers, most of the human population. This has led to an enormous number of so-called holy wars, jihad in Arabic. There was and is absolutely nothing holy about these wars, which are primarily to plunder, slaughter, rape, subjugate and rob other human beings of their wealth, produce, freedom and dignity. Mohammedan Muslim states and tribes attacked other non-Muslim groups to achieve these objectives. Although Islamic jurisprudence laid down regulations for the treatment of slaves, however, incredible and heinous abuses have occurred throughout the history of Mohammedan Islam. By the Middle Ages, the Arabic word abd was in general used to denote a black slave, while the word mamluk referred to a white slave. Ibn Khaldun, 1332 to 1406, the preeminent Islamic medieval historian and social thinker, wrote, "The Negro nations are, as a rule, submissive to slavery because they have attributes that are quite similar to dumb animals." It should also be noted that black slaves were castrated based on the assumption that the blacks had an ungovernable sexual appetite. When the Fatimid Caliphate came to power in Egypt, they slaughtered all the tens of thousands of black military slaves and raised an entirely new slave army. Some of these slaves were conscripted into the army at age 10. From Persia to Egypt to Morocco, slave armies from 30,000 to up to 250,000 became commonplace. The Islamic slave trade took place across the Sahara Desert, from the coast of the Red Sea, and from East Africa across the Indian Ocean. The Trans-Sahara trade was conducted along 6 major slave routes. Just in the 19th century, for which we have more accurate records, 1.2 million slaves were brought across the Sahara into the Middle East, as well as a further 450,000 down the Red Sea and 442,000 from the East African coastal ports. That is a total of 2 million black slaves just in the 1800s. At least 8 million more were calculated to have died before reaching the Muslim slave markets. A comparison of the Islamic slave trade to the American slave trade reveals some extremely interesting contrasts. While 2 out of every 3 slaves shipped across the Atlantic were men, the proportions were reversed in the Islamic slave trade. 2 women for every man were enslaved by the Muslims. While the mortality rate of slaves being transported across the Atlantic was as high as 10%, the percentage of slaves dying in transit in the Trans-Sahara and East African slave market was a staggering 80 to 90%. While almost all the slaves shipped across the Atlantic were for agricultural work, most of the slaves destined for the Muslim Middle East were for sexual exploitation as concubines, in harems, and for military service. While many children were born to the slaves in the Americas, the millions of their descendants are citizens in Brazil and the United States today. Very few descendants of the slaves that ended up in the Middle East survive. While most slaves who went to the Americas could marry and have families, most of the male slaves destined for the Middle East were castrated, and most of the children born to the women were killed at birth. It is estimated that possibly as many as 11 million Africans were transported across the Atlantic, 95% of which went to South and Central America, mainly to Portuguese, Spanish, and French possessions. Only 5% of the slaves ended up in what we call the United States today. However, a minimum of 28 million Africans were enslaved in the Muslim Middle East. Since at least 80% of those captured by Muslim slave traders were calculated to have died before reaching the slave markets, it is believed that the death toll from 1400 years of Arab and Muslim slave raids into Africa could have been as high as 112 millions. When added to the number of those sold in the slave markets, the total number of African victims of the Trans-Saharan and East African slave trade could be significantly higher than 140 million people. What is obscene about this whole subject is the Muhammadan, Muslim, and Arab culture of denial regarding their complicity in the African slave trade, as well as the ignorance of black Muslims about the reality of their past and present conditions. The statistics and reports above are based upon the logbooks kept at the African slave ports, ship logs, travelers' reports, eyewitness accounts, etc.
Local community leaders here have given estimates that would suggest that over 200,000 have been enslaved over a 20-year period.
The thought of human beings for sale moved me to taking action. As a filmmaker, I wanted to expose the atrocities and give a voice to those who have none.
The most shocking thing happened to me. A small child was slaughtered and the head severed from the body. The Arabs forced me to carry the head. For 5 days, I was forced to carry that head, even though it had started to decompose and produce a strong stench. On the 5th day, they told me to throw the head by the wayside and to set it on fire. Although I became a slave and worked night and day herding the master's cattle, I think that all the bodily pain and suffering was less heavy on my spirit than the carrying of the head of the dead child. My master was called Hassan Abdul Rahman from Lagawa. A lot of Dinka tribesmen have remained behind as slaves of the Arabs. I hope that those who brought us back to Dinka territory can also do something to bring them back.
What about you,
Today, there may be over 100,000 slaves in Sudan still in captivity, and more slaves are being captured from the Darfur genocide. Just like the genocide in Nazi Germany, many nations in the world refuse to acknowledge that slavery exists and therefore refuse to liberate them. These slaves have disappeared and remain hidden in the darkness.
Christian boys kidnapped from the villages are confined to an Islamic school where they are made to study the Arabic language and memorize the entire Quran. Rising for prayers before dawn and studying until the late hours of the night, they are indoctrinated into the strict teachings of the Islamic faith. Those who refuse to cooperate are beaten and chained until they improve their studies. Those who refuse to cooperate are beaten and chained until they improve their studies.
They must give up playing. Playing is harmful. It doesn't allow them time to study. Anyone who misbehaves, he's whipped so that he doesn't play anymore. When his colleagues see him being whipped, he will stop playing and become afraid. The Quran is difficult. If they do not work hard, they will not be able to memorize it all.
A lot of the footage that we have received from these nations, some in Sudan, show young boys being beaten, show them chained, walking down these dusty paths around the school compound with chains. In one school, they have to write on a small board that they carry with them Quranic verses, and then wash this board and drink the water. And their teachers tell them that drinking this water causes them or helps them to memorize this faster. And their teachers tell them that drinking this water causes them or helps them to memorize this faster.
Young girls have also been kidnapped and sold as concubines or given over to the sexual pleasures of the Islamic soldiers. Young girls have also been kidnapped and sold as concubines or given over to the sexual pleasures of the Islamic soldiers. Girls as young as 9 have been repeatedly violated. Tens of thousands of children have disappeared, hidden away by radical Muslims seeking to create a new generation void of any Christian faith. Christian men who refuse to submit to the Islamic movement have been imprisoned, beaten, and oftentimes mutilated. Others have been hung, nailed to trees, or drowned in the River Nile.
I must have...
All right. So there you have it. Okay? You've seen it for yourself. The Arab slave trade is still going on today. All right? And they are forcing the Africans into Islam to this very day. Now, I had to start off with that because that is very crucial pertaining to this topic when we're talking about the history of Islam. Okay? So, now that you have seen that, let's go deeper into the history. Let's go deeper into the information. All right? Now, you have to ask yourself, what were the Arabs before they became Muslim? A lot of people believe that, Arabs have always been Muslim. That's a lot of people believe the word Muslim is interchangeable with Arab. As much as they show an Arab person, they always make it a point of interest to mention that they're Muslim. So we, as Americans, we hear Muslim and we synonymously think Arab because, most Arabs that we see are Muslim. All right. But Arabs were not always Muslim. They used to be Christians, Jews, and pagans. Now, Islam is the last religion of the Abrahamic faiths. Now you have Judaism, Christianity slash Catholicism, and then you have Islam. Judaism is first, Christianity is second, Catholicism is interwoven within Christianity, so second, third, and then you have Islam, which is the last. Okay? Now, the New Testament was written 400 years after the Old Testament. Now, that's just, FYI for your information. You know what I'm saying? So the New Testament was written 400 years after the Old Testament. Okay, so let's get into it. The Syriac Orthodox Church of Antioch existed before Islam and has the oldest surviving liturgy of Christianity, which is the liturgy of Saint James the Apostle. Syriac is the official language, both written and spoken, of this church. Okay? Now, in the Bible, it actually references this in Acts 11:26. It says, "And when he found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch." Antioch is in Syria. All right. So that is confirmation that they were Christians before they were Islam, or before they were Muslim. Now, Antioch is in Syria, like I said. Now, what you see right here is a depiction of the Syrian Orthodox Church. Okay. It's the Antioch liturgy, Liturgy de Antioch. Many Arabs try to make it seem as if they started out Muslim, when in actuality they converted to Islam after being Christians, Jews, or pagans. There was a lot of switching up of religions and languages due to political and social economic reasons. There is a very important figure in Christianity slash Islam, and you're going to understand why I say that later down the line, that many today may not know about. This figure goes by the name of Nestorius. Now, this is a picture or depiction of a statue of Nestorius. Okay? Now, Nestorius is responsible for creating a huge divide in Christianity during the Roman Empire. He had different beliefs than what the Roman Empire wanted him to believe in. And when they threw him out, he had a lot of support from his followers when he left. He didn't believe in the dualistic nature of Christ. He didn't believe in Christ's divinity. He believed that Christ was just a man. No, they didn't call it Christianity back then. They called it the ism of whoever you follow. Therefore, followers of Nestorius called their version of Christianity Nestorianism. All right. Nestorius left Antioch and fled to Persia, which is modern-day Iran and Afghanistan. This is where his ministry started over, because in 451 AD, the Council of Chalcedon, he was thrown out. 451 AD, in the Council of Chalcedon, or Chalcedon, however you pronounce it, he was thrown out. Okay? This is the depiction of the Council of Chalcedon right here. Now, at some point, Nestorius went to Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, and started his church there in Iraq. You had the Church of the East in Iraq, which eventually became the Church of Nestorius. Now, as you see here, this is a portrait of one of the nuns of the Church of the East. Okay, this is very important because, as you can see, she's dressed just like a Muslim of today, but this is actually a Christian. Okay, they didn't just come in the form of Christians as well, they also came in the form of Jews. As you can see here, here's an actual photo of a nun from the Church of the East, and then here is a photo of these Jewish women right here. These are Jews, as you can tell. They're wearing the Jewish dress. They have the Jewish hair, they have the yarmulkes, and they look just like Muslims. They look just like Muslims. They have the same dress. These Arab people were dressing this way, and this was going on way before Islam came into play. Now, there are many comparisons between early Christianity and Judaism. All right, let me come back to my screen. All right. Now, like I was saying, there are many comparisons between early Christianity and Judaism and modern-day Islam. A lot of phrases, terms, and names are the same between these religions, but when it comes to the meanings of these terms and names, they're completely different from what they originally used to mean. The names and terms originated from Christian origins. So what they did was take these many Christian Jewish words and repurpose them. They gave them a new identity in the Quran. Now, let's go into the Lakhmids, okay? And I'm going to share my screen again. Now, here you have the Lakhmids. Okay, the Lakhmids referred to in Arabic as Al-Manadira, were an Arab kingdom of southern Iraq with Al-Hira as their capital from about 300 to 602 AD. Typo here. But they held a military encampment in modern-day south-central Iraq. They are responsible for occupying what is known historically as the first Arab kingdom, Al-Hira. This is the depiction of the Lakhmids and what they used to look like. Okay? Understand, before they were Islam, they were Christians. Before they were Muslims, they were Christians. Now, as you can see here, this is the Lakhmids kingdom. Now, pay attention to this right here. This is the city of Hira. H-I-R-A. Right here. This is the Persian Empire. I want you to focus on the Lakhmids kingdom. All right? Which is a Christian empire. And this is Hira right here. Pay attention. You also have Al-Hira. Now, Al-Hira is located in modern-day Iraq. Here it is on the map. This is the country of Iraq. Right here. Al-Hira is basically in south-central Iraq. All right. This is very important. They have what you call the hadith. The hadith in Islam refers to the record of the words, actions, and the silent approval of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Hadith have been called the backbone of Islamic civilization, and within that religion, the authority of hadith as a source for religious law and moral guidance ranks second only to that of the Quran. Now, it is said in the Hadith that Muhammad got his visions in Hira Cave, which is in Mecca. But you don't find a Hira Cave in Mecca during this time. The only Hira you find is the Lakhmid stronghold in south central Iraq, which is far from Mecca. Okay? Now, I pulled up some maps. Now, here's a map of Saudi Arabia. As you can look due north of Saudi Arabia, you have Iraq. Now, you pay attention, Mecca is down here, basically southwest of Saudi Arabia, okay? In the southern western hemisphere of Saudi Arabia, okay? But Iraq is due north, way up here. So, Muhammad had his visions in a place called Hira. But Hira is not where Mecca is. Hira is in Iraq. As you see here, I have a map of Hira. Hira is right here. Okay? Hira is here. Understand? Not here, because Mecca is here. Now, this is very important because the Lakhmids were originally Christians. Therefore, Al-Hira was a Christian town because the Syriac Church of the East had a diocese. A diocese is basically a district under the pastoral care of a bishop in the Christian church. Now, the Syriac Church of the East had a diocese there in the 5th century before Islam and the 11th century after Islam. The Hadith says that Muhammad sought reclusion for oneness or closeness with Allah in the Hira cave, and he stayed there for several days waiting for a revelation. You don't find Hira, you don't find Hira cave at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. The only place where you see the Hira cave is in south central Iraq, as I showed you in the maps. Now, when you look at the history of early Christianity in Iraq, you're going to come across a lot of things that relate to Islam before Islam ever existed. Now, a place I would like to note is the Harbiya. Okay? Many people have trouble finding such places because many of them now either have an al at the beginning of the name or an h at the end of the name. This is how they separated early Christianity from Islam. For example, the Al-Hira turned into Hira in the Quran. The Harbiya is now Al-Harbiya. There is a book out about Baghdad during the Caliphate era. The Caliphate era began after the death of Muhammad in 632. This book talks about a river in Baghdad or near the Harbiya called the Nar Isa, and it states, it is especially mentioned by early writers that the waters of the Nar Isa never failed, nor was its channel liable to become silted up. They describe it as flowing in a fine stream through the midst of the city, reaching the Tigris at the lower arbor, which, as will be shown later, must have been situated immediately below the later. All right, but pay attention to this right here. It's the Nar Isa. Nar Isa. Nar Isa translates to River Jesus. Okay, Nar is Arabic for river. Isa in the Quran is basically the name for Jesus. And when you go to the Surah 1924, where Mary was giving birth to Jesus, and she's in pain and wants to die, she hears a voice from below her, and it says to her, "Do not grieve, your Lord has provided beneath you a stream." Now, what is this talking about? It's talking about the Nar Isa, which is a place. Now, most of the names that people are familiar with in the Quran are actually corresponding to specific places in the Middle East, more specifically in Iraq, okay, which was basically ancient Mesopotamia. Now, what you begin to realize is mostly Islam is a map. Now, Hira in the Quran was the cave that Muhammad had his supposed visions. This place in the Quran corresponds with the place Al-Hira, which is a city located in Iraq, not Mecca. We see that Isa corresponds with the Nar Isa, which is a stream or river located near Anbar. Anbar is located near Al-Hira. When you look at the Hadith, which is basically writings that take place outside of the Quran, you find that Kufic was developed in Al-Hira. It wasn't developed in Kufa or Al-Kufa. Now, an Islamic site called Islamic Awareness talks about this in detail. All right? I took a screenshot of the site right here. Now, a lot of Christians like to bring up the fact that the Kufa language wasn't in Al-Kufa, but it actually developed in Al-Hira. This gives validity to what I'm saying. Before Muhammad, there was Al-Hira. There was no other Hira in existence before that, and this is where the name comes from. All right? Now it says below, Kufa and Basra did not start their careers as Muslim cities until the second decade of Islam, but these cities were located closer to Anbar and Hira in Iraq, Kufa being but a few miles south of Hira. Now the city of Kufa therefore inherited and took on the script which was already prevailing in Hira. The script, as we have mentioned, became later to be called as Kufic. Now this is all important because we know Hira or Al-Hira, and we know that Kufa or Al-Kufa were originally Jewish/Christian. Okay, so why would Islam, that strongly hates Christianity or Judaism, adapt Christian or Judaism terms and customs? These names and terms that associate with Islam are corresponding to early Jewish Christian places. Now, Kufic, which is the script that the Hadith was written in, comes from Al-Hira, which is in south central Iraq. Al-Hira was a Jewish Christian place. Kufa is basically the same name of the Kufic script. But what about the Hadith? Where does the Hadith come from? Well, you have the Haditha, which is a city in western Iraq, Al-Anbar. Okay? Now, when you look up Haditha, its early language, you will see it comes from the Hadada. If you Google Hadada, you will see Hadada or Haditha. It was a historical city on the east bank of the Tigris, just below its confluence with the Upper Zab. Now, the city became renowned as a bishopric center of the Church of the East within the ecclesiastical province of Adiabene. There existed also a substantial number of Jews, many of whom were converted to Christianity at the hand of its bishop, Titus or Hadada, in the 6th century. Now, the Hadada is an Aramaic or Syriac. All right? Hadada is Aramaic or Syriac. We know that Arabic comes from Syriac. When you Google Hadada, you see that it is referred to as the Hadada or Haditha, basically Syriac. And in Arabic, it's Al-Hadith. So we know that they got the name Hadith from this place. What you don't know about this place is that it was Christian or Jewish, or Christian/Jewish. Now this confirms what I've been saying about the religion of Islam. It's telling you that before there was Islam, the people of these regions were either Jewish or Christian. The Bible has chapters, and the Quran has surahs. If you look up Surah City, you will find that Surah City is a place in Iraq, just like you will find everything else in Iraq. Now, this is what happens when you Google Surah City. You come across this. Now, Surah City, Surah was a city in the southern part of ancient Babylonia. And remember, Babylonia is modern-day Iraq, located west of the Euphrates River. It was well known for its agricultural produce, which included grapes, wheat, and barley. It was also a major center of Torah scholarship. Understand the Torah is Judaism, okay? And it was home of an important yeshiva, which together with the yeshivas in Pumbedita and Nehardea gave rise to the Babylonian Talmud. This is Judaism right here. Torah, Talmud, these are Jewish terms, okay? Now, also, Surah City has a Surah Academy. If you look up Surah Academy, you find that Surah Academy was a Jewish yeshiva academy in Babylon, which is modern-day Iraq. All right, one of the two major Jewish academies, along with the Pumbedita Yeshiva Academy. All right, this is very important. This is very important. Here's Surah located on the map. Iraq is modern-day Babylon, as I've said before. The person who started all of this was an Arab by the name of Abba Arika. Here is a portrait of Abba Arika, right here, okay? Now, when you Google Abba Arika, this is what you find. All right, he was a Jewish Talmudist who was born and lived in Kafri, Sassanid, Babylonia, known as an Amora, which is a commentator on the oral law of the 3rd century who established at Surah the systematic study of the rabbinic traditions, which using the Mishnah as text led to the compilation of the Talmud. Like I said, Talmud is Jewish. Talmud is Jewish. All right? Now, the word surah actually means start or beginning. And as you can see, the surah is dealing with pre-Islamic Jewish Christian meanings. The word Quran itself is a Jewish Christian meaning. Quran doesn't mean recite like a lot of Muslims believe. Quran actually means Pentateuch reader. If you take it back to its earliest language, the language that they spoke at the time, which was Syriac and Aramaic, then it means Pentateuch reader. All right? Some say the Quran means recite. Not true. The word Quran means Pentateuch reader. When you go to where the word originally came from, Syriac, that is what Quran means. Now, when you go to where the word originally came from, this is what you find. All right? Now, this is very important. In Syriac, the word Quran is written Qryn, consonantal alphabet, meaning Pentateuch reader. Okay? Now, what does Pentateuch mean? Pentateuch means relating to or contained in the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Remember, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, we regard that as the Torah. Okay? These first 5 books were written by Moses. They call that the Torah. The Pentateuch is Jewish religion. Quran also means lectionary. Okay? Now, lectionaries were used in the Christian churches of Syria. Okay? The book being a Syro-Aramaic lectionary with hymns and biblical extracts created for use in Christian services. This lectionary was translated into Arabic as a missionary effort. All right? It was not meant to start a new religion, but to spread an older one. Now, when you Google and look up the definition of what lectionary means or what it is, a lectionary is a list or a book of portions of the Bible appointed to read at a church service. Okay? So a lectionary basically means a sermon that the deacon prepared for the church. When you go back and look at the Syriac Church of Antioch, like I mentioned before, you find that the deacons had duties. Okay? Now, here the duties of the deacons, right? If you look at number 4, now this is in the Syriac Orthodox tradition. If you look at number 4, one of the duties of the deacons, you see Q-U-R-O-Y-O, Kuryoyo. Lot similar to the word Quran. This word right here means reader. Only a few deacon or Masamsona can take the censer during the divine liturgy to assist the priest. All right, but as you can see right here, this is proving my point about the word Quran and Kiroyo, very similar, and it doesn't mean what Muslims think it means. It doesn't mean to recite, it means reader. Okay? Now, I mentioned earlier that there was a split within the religion. Basically, the people that believed that Jesus was divine and human, they stayed with the Roman Empire and became Christians. Then Catholics later on. Everybody else that didn't believe Jesus was both divine and human went on to create all these terms that today correspond with Islam. Now, I'm going to play some footage from 1940. Now, this is from the Steven Spielberg Jewish Library. The video documents the migration of Jews from southern Saudi Arabia, which is Yemen. We all know today Yemen is hugely Islamic. This video shows that Yemen was heavily populated with Jews and was taken over by Islam. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip from the documentary.
We're Carvana, the company who invented car vending machines and buying a car 100%.
Sorry about that, y'all. Hold on. They said this land is ruled by a Muslim priest king called an imam. Now, when have you ever heard of an imam being referred to as a priest king? Okay, so you got to pay attention to this. All right, I know the audio is a little bit janky, but I'm going to commentate a little bit as the video is playing to give you an idea. I just want to point out a couple things.
Virtually impossible to get into and out of Yemen. Amongst its few million impoverished Arabs, there lived an even poorer group, about 50,000 Jews, to be descended from the silversmiths sent by King Solomon across Arabia to the Queen of Sheba. To this day, the Jews of Yemen remain craftsmen, silversmiths, shoemakers, weavers. Living in hovels, forbidden to own land, they were paid in food, and in these last years of drought there was very little food. Jews were pariahs. Muslims called them dogs, spat on them. And through the centuries, the Jews of Yemen clung to their Torah, and their one hope, that Messiah would someday lead them back to their own land.
All right, the Jews were hoping that their Messiah would one day Lead them back to their homeland.
Now at last their elders spoke the word.
Pay attention. This guy is wearing a fez. This is a Jew. Remember, these are Jews that are inhabiting this land. These are Jews. Notice the fez. Notice the fez right here. Notice it. Also, notice the long beard. He looks like he's, Islam. He looks like he's a Muslim. But no, this guy is Jewish.
Hear me, children of Yemen. I've been to the village of Rada, and from the street of the Jews, all of our brethren are gone. The Arabs say that the Jews have gone to Aden to meet our Messiah. We also must set forth. From Aden, the Messiah will take us to Israel. It is better to suffer on the way than to remain and die of starvation and sickness. For it stands written in the Torah that we must go forth to meet the Messiah. As it is written, so it must be. Only 14 days from here, have courage, and in Aden we will be taken up on the wings of a great bird, and we will all be carried to Israel. It is written that we shall return on the wings of a great eagle.
What the narrator is doing right now, he's just referring to scriptures from the Torah claiming that they're going to fly out of there with wings of gold and things like that. He's talking about Jewish prophecy coming true. Basically, what they're trying to do is make a false doctrine valid. All right, they're trying to fulfill the prophecy of a false doctrine. Okay.
We have many days to walk, and our provisions are not enough. Some may perish on the way, but do not doubt me. Do not turn back. Can we bring our children into a world where a Jew may not pass on the right side of a Muslim? In our own land, we will walk as equals. There each man may be his own master. Each man will have a right to labor his own field or to labor in the city. Every child will be taught to read in books and to write with his own hand. Our sores will be healed, and we will eat good things twice and even 3 times every day. There will be work for every hand, and we will have shoes on our feet. There will be no more Muslims over us. In Israel, a Jew may say his prayers out loud, and no Muslim will throw stones. All this is true. In Israel, there are olive trees, figs, and golden orange fruits, and cities where even the authorities are Jews. Come. Dance.
Okay, I skipped over to this part right here. Okay. Oh, by the way, how are black people considered the original Hebrew Israelites or true Jews if this is the case? Okay. Just quick question. All right. But anyway, yeah. So as you can pay attention, as you see right here, the dress that they're wearing, and let me mute this as I'm playing it. Well, you know what? I want you to hear something real quick. But look what they're wearing. Look what these people are wearing. These are Arabs. Look what they're wearing. They're wearing the same thing that they wear today. They're wearing the same thing that they're wearing today. But they're not Muslims. These are Jews right here. These are Jews.
Sing our ancient songs, the songs of Solomon, that we have kept secret and have not forgotten in these thousands of years in our exile in the far land of Yemen.
Listen to the chants. Listen to the music. Sounds very Muslim, doesn't it? Did you see that guy right there? Hold on, let me back it up a little bit. You see his hair? He got the little curls on the side. These are Jews. My bad. Do you hear that? You hear that at the end or in the background? Those chants by the women? Hold on. Make sure y'all can hear. Y'all be able to hear it. Listen to the chants in the background. Muslims do that today. Muslims do that today, but those are not Muslims. Those are Jews. All right? Now, that's all I'm going to play of this documentary, but you get the point. Okay? You get the point. All right? Now, between the time of 622 and 750 AD, the Arabs were on a conquering spree. All right? They started conquering most of the Middle East. During that early time of their conquest, there was no mention of Muhammad or Islam. The Jews and Christians were allowed to still worship in these places that were newly conquered by these Arabs. Now, it wasn't until the late 7th century, 690 to 692, where Abd al-Malik came and he conquered the Byzantine Empire in Syria. Now, when Abdul did achieve this, that's when everything began to change and we start to see the rise of Islam. All right? Now, Abd al-Malik is basically the father of the Quran, the man that basically brought this thing together. What he did was get rid of the language that they spoke before. The way he did this was by building a lot of schools and outlawed the original language, which was Syriac and Aramaic. Then the children were taught Arabic. For this to be effective, a generation needs to pass about 60 to 70 years before that language basically becomes solidified amongst the people. Okay? Now, right here on the coin, Abd al-Malik minted his own depiction on his coins for currency. As you can see, this is the depiction of Abd al-Malik on the coin. So, you have these Persians that were conquered or being ruled in Syria under the Christian Byzantine Empire, who was ruled by the Emperor Justinian II. This is a portrait of Justinian II right here. Okay? Now, Abd al-Malik came in and took over the Byzantine Empire around 692 AD. The reason why we know this occurred is because these were the coins that were minted around this time period. Now, these are the coins of Justinian II of Byzantine. As you can see on the coins, they have Christian symbolism on the coins. I see in the back they have the cross. Okay? And this is a Christ figure right here. Okay? Now, this was a Christian empire, as you can see. If you look at these coins, you will see Christ on the first side and the cross on the other side. Now, in 693, when Abd al-Malik took over, he minted these coins. These are the coins that Abd al-Malik minted. As you can see, there is no Christ figure right here, but they're the same design when it comes to the back of the coin, or when it comes to one side of the coin. All right. Now here are the coins side by side, and you can see exactly what they took from the old design and applied it to the new design. All right. Look at these, very, very similar. But the only thing is different is they don't have the Christian symbolism because they are converting to a new religion. This is why the coins differ. Okay, one coin is by Justinian II, the other coin is by Abd al-Malik. Okay. Now, by looking at the comparison of coins, you can clearly see where they copied the design of the coins. Now, you take away their language again, and you outlaw the Syriac Aramaic language. Now, let me come back to my screen. All right. Like I said, you take away their language, you outlaw the Syriac Aramaic language, and you make Arabic the official language because of the Prophet Muhammad. Most Muslims will say the Arabic language is a sacred language and it wasn't given to Muhammad. And it was given to Muhammad, I'm sorry. Of course, they didn't speak it back then because it was just given to them and it was the language that people were supposed to speak. But now you can see why they don't want you to learn the old language, because a lot of these terms and names lead back to Christianity. So now you have Abd al-Malik coming in and forcing these people to speak Arabic, and you teach them through this new religion that represents these people, the Arabs. It's the word Arabic. Now, the language doesn't lie. And you see what has been going on with these religions. If you want to give the people a religion to worship, you have to take away the old meanings of certain words because people want to know what they mean. This is why language was changed so much around that era. Because you can't tell a person that Muhammad is a person, when Muhammad is just a phrase that means a person who is worthy of praise. All right, see the difference? So language has to be changed, and you can see why it has been done to get people to join these religions and get people not to understand what these words mean, where they originally come from. All right, now you have whole languages that were basically wiped out. That way the old meaning would still survive and certain people would know their true origin. Okay. Now we know Muhammad died in 632 AD, and the Quran didn't come into play until around the 700s. Therefore, about 70 years after Muhammad died, we start getting this Quran. The oldest Quran was found to be carbon dated around 715 AD. Abd al-Malik was born 646 AD in Mecca and raised in Medina. Hold on, before I go on, let me show you a picture right here of the oldest Quran. Let me show you a depiction of the oldest Quran. All right, this is the oldest Quran that was carbon dated at around 715 AD. Okay, this is the depiction of the Quran. Let me go ahead and minimize it so we can get the whole picture. What happened? Ooh, what happened? Oh, here we go. Sorry about that, y'all. Go ahead and minimize it so you can see it better. All right, this is the oldest Quran. That's carbon dated around 715 AD. You can see here. Now, Abd al-Malik was born 646 AD in Mecca and raised in Medina. He conquered the Byzantine Empire in Syria around 692 to 693 AD. So when you start to put the pieces together, it starts to make sense. He conquered the empire, introduced the Quran, and teaches the religion to the people. Also, Muhammad's wife, Hold on. Let me share my screen so I can show you the oldest Quran. I thought I was sharing my screen here, but here it is right here. My apologies. This is the oldest Quran that was carbon dated around 715 AD. Okay. Now, Abdul Alik was born 646 AD in Mecca and raised in Medina. He conquered the Byzantine Empire in Syria around 692-693 AD. So when you start to put the pieces together, it starts to make sense. He conquered the empire, introduced the Quran, and teaches the religion to the people. Also, Muhammad's wife, Khadija, I think that's how you pronounce it, Khadija or Khadija, was a rich Roman Catholic nun. Now, he married her when he was 25 and she was 40. Interesting. All right. Now, here's a depiction of his wife, Khadija. Now, also, the term Allah has several different meanings. We know the symbol for Islam is the crescent and the star, shown below, shown here. Now, in moon mythology, you have Allah, the moon god. This is Allah, the moon god. You can see here they have the crescent moon as the symbol. Okay? Now, Allah married a sun goddess and had 3 daughters. This is Allah, this is the crescent moon, and this is his 3 daughters right here. Okay? Now, this is another depiction of the 3 daughters of Allah. Okay? And as you see, they have the sun symbology and the moon mythology, symbology right here. Okay? Now, one daughter, her name was Alat. The second daughter was Al-Uzza. And then the third daughter was Manat. Okay? Now this moon god's name was Sin. Okay? Now if you look up Sin, Sumerian, Nana, in Mesopotamian religion, the god of the moon. Sin was the father of the sun god Shamash, which is Sumerian, Utu. And in some myths of Ishtar, Sumerian, Ishtar is Inanna, goddess of Venus. All right? But Sin was the original name, but the title of Sin was Al-Ilah. Then later, that was shortened to Allah. Okay? Now, this is why before or during the appearance and ending of the crescent moon, they have Ramadan. Pagans also worship the moon. You see this a lot throughout Catholicism. They have a lot of rituals in Catholicism, just like the Muslims do. For example, they both use the rosary beads. Here's a depiction of the rosary beads. All right? They use this in Catholicism. They use this in Islam as well, with the custom of the rosary beads. They have a lot of ritualistic sayings, chants, and customs that they do when they're praying that are, very similar. Now, where do we find the worship of the moon and the sun together? You see it a lot in Catholicism when the Pope holds up sort of a circle wafer. It's a sun symbol, all right? The Pope puts up this holder that looks like the sun, as shown here. Okay? Now, inside of the wafer, you can see a depiction of the crescent moon. Okay? You can't really see it too good here, but as zooming in, boom, you see the crescent moon right here. All right? This is not by coincidence. Now, in ancient Egypt, you have Isis. Isis is the moon goddess. Okay? Isis is a moon goddess. Also, Hathor was always depicted with the crescent moon and sun over her head. Okay? Now, what Islam basically did was switch the genders of the deities. So you had Isis, who was considered a moon goddess, and you had Osiris, who was considered to be a sun god, along with Ra and Horus, basically males, that were sun gods in ancient Egypt. Here you can see Isis, or the Holy Trinity. Horus, Osiris. This is Horus, Osiris, and Isis right here. Now, Horus and Osiris are sun gods. Isis is the god, moon goddess. Okay? Because all this shit ultimately comes from ancient Egypt. As you can see here, Horus is in the middle, sun god. Okay? So long before Islam and Christianity, there was a worship of Allah. Allah was worshipped under many different names. Listen, pay attention. Before Islam and Christianity, there was a worship of Allah. Allah was worshipped under many different names. One of the names was Baal Hadad. The Bible actually mentions Baal Hadad several times throughout the book. Now, when you look at the symbol for Baal Hadad, you will see a crescent moon. You always see this crescent moon with the circle symbol that represents the sun. Now, here's depictions of the Baal Hadad. See? See the symbol of the crescent moon? Now, in ancient Mesopotamia, which I said was modern-day Iraq, you have the Babylonians. The Babylonians worshipped Nimrod. Okay? Now, Nimrod was pagan. So you can tie all of this together. This is proof that the Assyrians were pagans before they were Muslims. They worshipped the sun and the moon as Baal Hadad, which is considered paganism. All right? Here's the depiction. You can see. This is how they worship Baal Hadad. This is what they worship. This is paganism right here. You see the crescent and the sun. The crescent moon and the sun. Okay? Now, you can also see it here. This is another version of it. Same thing. Now, the people that created Christianity also created Islam. Islam was created to control the Arabs that occupy a majority of the Middle East. In the Middle East, there are a lot of major mosques. Right next to these mosques, you will see Catholic churches. Okay? And here are the receipts. Look, as you can see here, you have a Catholic church. You have a Catholic church and you have a mosque right next to each other. You underdig? See, here's a better picture, more close up. Catholic church, see the cross, and then you see the crescent moon over here. Here's the mosque. You have the cross, Catholic church, and then you have the mosque, crescent moon. Okay? Here's another picture. No, these are in the Middle East, and these churches are side by side. This ain't in the United States. These are in the Middle East. Okay? You have a mosque right next to a Catholic church, which is strange because, you know, these two religions are basically at war in the Middle East. You got Jews and Christians fighting against Muslims, but you're going to put a mosque right next to a Catholic church? Doesn't make any sense. Why? See here. Here's the Catholic church, and here's the mosque right here, right next to each other. Now, who is always controlling the force in the Bible and Quran? Who is always the controlling force in the Bible and Quran? It's Rome. Rome is always the controlling force in the Bible and Quran. If you read the Bible, you understand that the Bible was written with a pro-Rome perspective. Rome runs everything. Rome runs everything. Rome runs England. England runs United States. Okay? Romans run the world. Rome runs England. England runs the U.S. Okay? Rome runs America. As you see on the American Express, you see the Roman centurion on the front of American Express cards. Okay? Not to mention, if you want to take it any deeper, most of these languages. I mean, you go to, you talk about Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, English. All of these languages use Roman alphanumericals. That's how you know Rome has a huge influence on the rest of the world. And the most powerful people, the most powerful person in the world is the Pope. Now, before Islam existed, there was a worship of Allah. It was the Kaaba. Okay? This is the Kaaba. Now, the crescent moon symbol is everywhere in Islam. In 1950, this moon god was excavated at Hazar in Palestine. The photo shows Allah sitting on a throne. Notice the crescent moon on his chest. Okay? Now, Allah represents the highest god or idol of the 360 idols that was worshipped around the Kaaba. Before Muhammad was even born, his grandfather was the high priest and keeper of the 360 idols around the Kaaba. Muhammad's father, whose name is Abdullah ibn Abdul al-Muttalib, Abdullah means slave of Allah. Abd, as you heard in the first video I played earlier, is the equivalent of the word slave. Now, so before Muhammad was born, his father and grandfather worshipped Allah and the Kaaba, and it had nothing to do with Islam and everything to do with paganism. All right? And the worship of the moon god, Al-Ilah, who they considered Allah. Now, all Muhammad did was get rid of the 360 idols around the Kaaba and said, we're worshiping only one God, as the Quran says. So he kept the God the same and changed the form of worship. So while you think you are worshiping this Allah as it pertains to the Quran, you are in actuality worshiping a pagan deity disguised as Islam. And that's just the truth. Okay? As you can see here, you know, they walk around the Kaaba in a circle. Okay? Now, a circle is 360 degrees, representing the 360 idols that were removed from the Kaaba by the Prophet Muhammad. All right? Now, let's get into some real shit. Okay? Now, what I told you right there was some real shit, but what I'm about to get into right now is the real meat and potatoes of this lecture. Okay? We're going to get into the war aspect first, and then we're going to work our way up to modern day history. Now, there was no Islam. I'm going to say this. There is no fucking Islam during the BC era. You will not find any Islam during the BC era. You won't find any Muslims in the BC era. All you find is paganism. You find even Hellenization. You won't even find Islam in the BC era. Okay? Now, there was a war between the Persians, who were Arabs, versus the Romans, who were basically white people. This war took place 92 BCE and ended around 7th century AD. This lasted for over 600 years. Now, this war ended in a status quo antebellum. All parties agreed to go back to the way things were before the war. They basically had a truce or an agreement. Now, as soon as the war ends, the Arab invasion occurs and Islam is born. Now, Islam uses the same prophets as Rome. Okay? Islam uses the same prophets as Rome. Do you understand me? Now, why would the Arabs adopt this religion? Why would Rome allow this to happen? Rome used the Arabs to fulfill their global domination agenda, aka the New World Order. They used the Muslims to conquer areas they couldn't control or get into. Now, during the slave trade, the Africans were forcibly removed by the Arabs from the Middle East. Arabs were used to conquer territories. The Crusades began around 1095 AD. Now, all Rome did was sweep in there and act like they were saving everybody from the Arab conquest, but in actuality, Arabs and Romans were in cahoots with one another. Now, what we see today with Syria and ISIS is the same thing that basically occurred in history. We control ISIS. We are ISIS. Same as back then. Okay? Now, they're using Muslim rebel forces to gain control of Syria today. Okay? Many people believe that the point of the Crusades was to get rid of the Muslims. It was really about wiping out Christian fashions that were against the papacy. Many people didn't agree with there being a pope whom was able to dictate laws of the land. All right? And remember, there was no separation between the church and the state. So the pope is a dictator. Now, let's get into the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were not against Islam. Members of the Knights of Templar were in fact Muslims. Okay? Now here's the proof. Muslims and Templar membership as a historical fact. Authentically, the original Knights Templar, let me share my screen so you can see this receipt. Authentically, the original Knights Templar rejected the idea of the Crusades as supposedly being to eliminate Muslims or eradicate Islam. The historical fact is proven by the Temple Rule of 1129 AD, in which the Templar order criticized that the Crusades did not do what it should, that is, to defend, but strove to plunder, despoil, and kill. It clearly specified that the only real purpose of Templar warfare was to remove from the land enemies of Christ, not to kill Muslims. And the original Latin says only to strike enemies, proving no specific intent to kill. All right. Now, quite contrary to popularized misconceptions, the Templars fully understood that Muslims were not necessarily enemies, that the real enemies of Christ could even be evildoers pretending to be Christians, and that the enemies of Christ were generally the same as the enemies of Islam. Indeed, evildoers are essentially the enemies of all faith, opposed to the principle of religion itself, and are thus the enemies of God. Therefore, the Templars were never crusaders against Muslims and did not agree with any such philosophy. Rather, the Knights Templar were holy warrior monks fighting for good against evil, regardless of which religions may or may not be involved. The most conclusive evidence that Muslims were in fact accepted in membership in Templar order was codified in the Temple Rule of 1129 AD, which was expanded by the later hierarchical rules added from 1150 to 1250 AD. One key amendment specifically provides if a brother goes out from the house and enters into another religion, it would do no harm if he returns to rejoin the house, but he will not be held by anything to that religion nor to us also, for he has returned from the one and from the other. Now, this is very important. Now that I have prefaced that, let's get I'm gonna get a little bit off topic, but I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring it right around home. Okay. Now let's get into the Lincoln assassination. Okay. Now, many people are familiar with the Lincoln assassination. Many people are familiar that John Wilkes Booth was the murderer who assassinated Lincoln. Now, John Wilkes Booth, many people don't know, was a member of the Knights of the Golden Circle, and he was a Scottish Rite Freemason, just like Albert Pike. And I'm going to get into Albert Pike. You may have heard of who Albert Pike is. You may have seen a statue of him in Washington, D.C., but you probably may not know what his role in history is. And I'm going to go over him a little bit later down the line. But bear with me for a second. Now let's get into John Wilkes Booth. This is a picture of John Wilkes Booth right here. Okay, I'm just minimizing my screen a little bit so you can see the whole picture. All right, so this is John Wilkes Booth right here. Oops. Oh no, what happened? You good? Okay. Now, he was part of the Knights of the Golden Circle. As you can see here, this is a receipt showing that there is such thing as the Knights of the Golden Circle. An authentic exposition of the Knights of the Golden Circle. All right, history of secession. Okay. Now, he was also a Scottish Rite Freemason. This is the symbol for Scottish Rite Freemasonry right here. Anytime you see this double eagle with the little crown right here and 33 on the top, this is a Scottish Rite Freemason symbol. All right, sometimes you see the 33 at the top, sometimes a different number, sometimes you don't see a number at all, you know, but this is the basic symbol. This is the most recognized symbol for Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Okay, now going into this Lincoln assassination in depth, almost everybody in the Lincoln administration wanted Lincoln dead. Many of them were complicit in Lincoln's murder and helped with the cover-up. All right, this right here is a depiction of a general, a man named General Lafayette C. Baker. Now, Lafayette Baker was summoned to help solve the Lincoln murder case. Within 2 days, he arrested 4 people. All right, he had a lead on Wilkes Booth and his accomplice, David Harrell. Now, as you see right here, this is David Harrell. Okay, David Harrell. They supposedly tracked down Booth and Harrell to a barn. All right, Harrell surrendered. Booth went out blasting. And Sergeant Thomas Corbett, aka Boston Corbett, was the man who shot and killed John Wilkes Booth. This is a picture of Sergeant Thomas Corbett, aka Boston Corbett. Okay. Harrell was taken to prison and later hanged along with 3 of his accomplices. Now, this is a photo of the actual hanging. You see these, this is David Harrell and his 3 accomplices all being hung. Okay, it's an actual photo. Now, General Baker made sure it was a military tribunal. This is very important because if he made sure that it was a military tribunal, and remember he was a general himself, he can actually control the trial, how the trial went, and he can control what questions would be answered. Now, he received a large portion of the reward for finding Lincoln's killer. As you see, there was a $100,000 reward to find the murderer. He received a large portion of that. Now, Wilkes Booth's body was never photographed. They never took any pictures of his dead body. They took pictures of all the others who were involved that were hung, but not any pictures of John Wilkes Booth's dead body. Then come a man, Edwin M. Stanton. Many people believe Edward M. Stanton which was a Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton was complicit in the Lincoln murder. Now, he hid the keys to where Booth's body was originally stored and didn't allow anybody to have access to the storage. He also hid 18 pages of Wilkes Booth's diary. Now, the diary was coded by Booth, but even though it was coded, it still stated in the diary that the nation was being controlled by Scottish Rite Freemasons who worked for the British Crown. Okay? Later, they found the diary of General Lafayette Baker, which was also coded and stated the same thing that John Wilkes Booth said about a group of Scottish Rite Freemasons that worked for the British Crown controlling the United States. Lafayette's diary was actually written inside a British military journal. Interesting. Now, Albert Pike. Let's get into Albert Pike. I mentioned him before. Albert Pike was a Confederate soldier and a lawyer. The North was always trying to take Indian land, and Albert Pike helped them get their land back, as he won a lot of cases for them. He also was involved in the Lincoln assassination. People also believe that he was involved in the Lincoln assassination. Now, after the Civil War, Pike was charged with treason for getting the Indians to attack the Union soldiers of the North. He fled to Canada until the presidency of this man here, Andrew Johnson. President Andrew Johnson. Now, President Andrew Johnson gave Albert Pike a full pardon for his war crimes. This man right here gave Albert Pike a full pardon for his war crimes. All right. Now, I do have a depiction of Albert Pike in here. You will see a picture of Albert Pike as I scroll down. Now, what does this have to do with Islam? All right. See, this is Albert Pike right here. As you see, he has the 33 right here, signifying the 33 degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. He also has the Scottish Rite Freemasonry symbol right here with the double eagle. Okay. Now, Albert Pike, he is a Confederate general and co-founder. He was the Confederate general and co-founder, chief judicial officer, and imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Also, a 33rd degree Scottish Rite sovereign grand commander of Freemasonry, considered the highest ranking Freemason of all time. Now, Pike died in 1891. He was buried in Oak Hill Cemetery in Washington, D.C. until 1911. Now, by 1911, they moved his body to the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. This right here is a picture of the House of the Temple, Scottish Rite, Washington, D.C. Okay, this is the headquarters for the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Now, House of the Temple has a huge atrium to the Supreme Council of 33 degrees. To the right of the atrium is a staircase where you can see a statue of Albert Pike. Those stairs lead up to the temple for the 33rd degree Freemasons. Underneath those stairs is supposed to be the body of Albert Pike. To the left of the atrium is a memorial dedicated to Albert Pike. The House of the Temple is the headquarters, like I said before, for the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. It is exactly 13 blocks due north of the White House, and it would be the capstone of a pyramid of the Masonic layout of Washington, D.C. All right. Now, I have pictures of Albert Pike's statue right here. You can see for yourself. When you go to Washington, D.C., and you actually do a tour of the state capitol, you will see depictions of Albert Pike. You will see his statues. And you have to ask yourself, how does a Confederate soldier who committed the highest crime that he could possibly committed against the United States get his own statue in Washington, D.C., in the state capitol? All right. That's what you have to ask yourself. Now, you can see right here, state capitol of Washington, D.C. is a Masonic city. The way it was laid out, it's Masonic. Okay. As you can see right here, this is the Masonic layout. This would be the capstone of the pyramid. The White House is here. 13 blocks due north of it is the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree temple. Okay. Also, perpendicular to that is the U.S. Capitol. All right. You can see Lincoln Memorial opposite of the U.S. Capitol. Washington Monument is directly across from the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree temple. All right, you can see another depiction of the Masonic layout. And right here where you see this red dot, this is where the house of the temple is located. Right here in the capstone of the pyramid of the Masonic layout of Washington, D.C. Now here's a picture right here. You can see of the house of the temple, Supreme Council 33 degrees, museum library. You can see it says Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So all this stuff is basically in your face. They hide this stuff in plain sight. They don't even really hide it. It's right there in plain sight for you to see. Okay. Now, if you look at the back of your dollar, you always notice that they have, things written in what language? Latin. And if you know anything about Latin, Latin is a Roman language. All right. It is the original language of Rome. Latin and Greek is. Those are the original languages of Rome, Latin and Greek. Now, if you zoom in on the pyramid, it forms a hexagram, all right? Starting at the M, you go to the A, S, O, N, all right? It spells out Mason. Now, reading clockwise, starting with A equals ASMON, the anagram for Mason or Freemason. Novus Ordo Seclorum means favor our undertaking new order of the age. It means a new order of the ages, aka New World Order. Whose New World Order? Rome's. It's written in what? A Roman language, which is Latin. Okay? Now, this book right here is Albert Pike's book. It's called Morals and Dogma. In this book, Albert Pike claims that Lucifer is the light bearer, the light of Freemasonry that all Freemasons subscribe to. Now, Masons look up to Albert Pike, including presidents. So the presidents, even to this day, aren't the most powerful men in the nation. There are high-ranking Freemasons that have more influence than the president does. Okay. Now, Pike also has a statue in Judiciary Square in Washington, D.C. As you can see in his statue right here. This is Albert Pike. If you zoom in on this right here, you can see the double eagle symbol. Once again, the double eagle symbol is here. All right. Now, many black people actually lobbied to get it removed, but they kept it there. Want to know why? Because the ADL, which is controlled by Britain, saved it. Now, he's the only Confederate member to have a statue in Washington, D.C. The only Confederate member to have a statue in Washington, D.C. Why? He co-founded the KKK in 1866. Okay? Now, the Ku Klux Klan, which was founded in 1866, the year after slavery ended, by 6 Confederate officers, including Albert Pike and Nathan Bedford Forrest. Nathan Bedford Forrest was a general and also a Freemason. Okay? Now, this is important. Nathan Bedford Forrest also was a Scottish Rite Freemason. Now, who are the KKK? What are they based on? Where does it come from? Well, remember we mentioned the Knights of Templar. And if you look at the Knights of Templar, and then you go look at the KKK, Don't they look very, very similar? They look very, very similar, don't they? And this is not by coincidence, okay? The Knights Templar used to be the Order of the Temple, or the Knights of the Temple of Solomon. Albert Pike admitted in his book that Scottish Rite Freemasonry started with the Knights of Templar. Remember, the Knights of Templar was sanctioned by who? The Pope. Rome. Ultimately, all Freemasonry comes from ancient Egypt, okay? But Freemasons claim to be founded on the building of the Temple of Solomon. Now, Ku Klux is Greek for Golden Circle. Albert Pike and John Wilkes Booth were both members of the Knights of the Golden Circle. So for anybody that has doubts that Albert Pike was a co-founder of the KKK, is literally right there in the very name. The Ku Klux Klan is a Scottish term. Klan is a Scottish term. All right? Klan is a Scottish term. Ku Klux is Greek for Golden Circle. Klan is a Scottish term. Now, in Scotland, you do have cross burning. They call it Cran Terra. KKK has cross burning as well. You can see a picture of the KKK right here. They're known for their cross burning. Also, Scotland is known for their cross burning too. They call it Cran Terra, preserving the culture, history, heritage of future of Scotland. And as you can see in the depiction right here, they have a burning cross with a Scotland, a man from Scotland, basically holding the cross up. As you can see here in this picture, they're having an event where the soldiers are burning crosses. All right, Cran Terra is Scottish dialect for burning cross. Okay, so this is how you know that Albert Pike co-founded the Ku Klux Klan, and this is how you know that he was part of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. All right, you can piece this stuff together and see how everything is connected. Now, it's what the Scottish clans used to summon their clansmen to arms. That's what the Cran Terra is for. Now, you can't get into the Knights Templar without the Pope. All right, this Pope right here is Honorius. Pope Honorius sanctioned the Knights of Templar and gave them their code of conduct. There wouldn't be any Muslims allowed in it unless he sanctioned them in. All right. Now, remember we were talking about Islam going on their conquest, right? And this war that they were having with the Romans. Now, here are maps right here. Here's a map of the Islam conquest. All right. Here's a map of the Islam conquest. And right here, these are the areas of the Muslim conquest. Now, if you pay attention, Mediterranean Sea's here. Look, Mediterranean Sea's here. A lot of these areas are the same fucking areas. All right. Now, this is the map of the Roman conquest of the first century, from the first century to 600 AD. All right. Now, let me show you. Oh, here it is. I put the map side by side so you can see the comparison. Now, if you pay attention to the Islamic conquest, right, the only places that weren't touched were basically Rome, Greece, and England. Everything else was conquered by Arabs. Now, you can't have missionaries spreading the word of Christ as you're trying to conquer the land. So how did the Persians end up conquering much of the land that was part of the Roman Empire? The Arabs didn't conquer Rome, Greece, nor England, but everything else they conquered, including Spain. So the Arabs conquered all the places that Rome wanted to get into. The Crusades were a smokescreen for the exchange of power that took place. They went in, wiped out everyone they wanted to wipe out, and placed puppet leaders in those governments. These leaders would then go on to do the bidding of the Pope, therefore transferring the power from Muslims to Rome. All right. As I showed you before, this is the symbol for Islam, the star and the crescent. The original costume for the KKK has the star and the crescent on it. It's just upside down. Okay? This is the original costume of the KKK. Here's another depiction of an original costume of the KKK. See? Now this is a picture, another picture of Albert Pike wearing a costume that's kind of similar to the original KKK uniform. Now there's a connection between Islam and the Freemasonic leaders. This is the holy book for the KKK. It's called the Quran. All right? Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. This is the holy book for the KKK. They also have a hymnal. And this is the hymnal of the Quran. Okay? Now, let's get into the Shriners. Now, you have what you call the Shriners. This is the history of the AAONMS, Ancient Arabic Order Nobles Mystic Shrine. Okay? On September 26, 1872, these two men met with 11 others in New York's Masonic Hall, 114 East 13th Street, for the purpose of formally organizing the Ancient Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine for North America. Together they became charter members of the New York Temple, named Mecca. The Arab shrine was born. And here's the symbol that they use right here. All right, you have Walter Fleming, you have William Florence. This is the current imperial potentate of Shriners International, Michael G. Sevier. All right, notice what they're wearing. He's wearing a fez. He's wearing the fez. And notice in their symbols, they have the star and the crescent. All right, see? Star and the crescent. Now, by unscrambling the acronym AAONMS, you actually get a Mason, which I think is very interesting. Now, here's a picture right here of a bunch of black folks that are a part of the AAONMS. Okay, this is in Detroit, Michigan. You see a bunch of black folks over here rocking the fez. Okay, they're rocking the fez. Now, how many black Muslims knew that they were connected to the KKK? Probably not many. Okay, now the KKK has a circus. Also, Shriners, the AAONMS, have a circus as well. As you can see here on the fez, it says Shrine, AAONMS Circus. And the Ku Klux Klan have their Klan circus. See? Now, look at this. This man is wearing a fez. Now, I got pictures of a bunch of white men rocking fezes. Right here. On this fez, it says Quran. Notice they spell it with a K. K-O-R-A-N. Instead of Q-U-R-A-N. All right. This one says Islam on it. And it has the star and crescent on it. These are Shriners. These are Shriners. See? These are white people wearing fezes. Look at this. What is that? See, if you don't do your research and you don't know the history and you engage in these ritualistic practices, you don't know who you're giving your power to, or what you're giving your power to, or what agenda you're fulfilling. This is the Shriner insignia right here. On this fez, you see Muslim. All right. Now, this is a picture of Masonic Lodge. You go to any Masonic Lodge, you're going to see, in the interest of any Masonic Lodge, you're going to see 3 books. You're going to see a Torah, you're going to see a Bible, and a Quran. All right. Torah, Bible, and Quran. You know this is a Masonic Lodge because you can see the G and the compass right here, the universal symbol for Freemasonry right here. Now, this symbol right here, it's the Memphis Mitzrim. This symbol basically means cutting off the head of the old order and bringing about the new order. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds like Rome got their hands all over this. Now understand there's 3 holy doctrines. There's 3 holy doctrines, therefore there's 3 world wars. Albert Pike stated that there was going to be 3 world wars before there was even a World War I. And remember, he died in what was the year he died again? Let me come back to it. I want to say 1896. Was it 1896? Oh, 1891. He died 1891, years before World War I. And this is what Albert Pike said, and I want y'all to really dig this because this is heavy right here. Albert Pike said the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenter of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. This is insane. He predicted that there was going to be a Third World War before there was even World War I. And they were going to use all 3 religions to usher in the world wars. And it's funny because if you look at baseball, baseball is played on a diamond. And I got this picture right here so you can understand where we're at. Now, World War III has already happened. And guess what? In baseball, since it's played on this diamond, what are the rules in baseball? 3 strikes and you're out. After 3 world wars, New World Order achieved. And basically, they already here. I mean, they're bombing the shit out of Syria right now. And they have pretty much controlled a majority of the Middle East right now. Okay? And here's another picture of a Shriner, and you can look at the top of his hat and look what it says. Look at the top of his fez. Look what it says. It says ISIS. ISIS. Also, you got to take in consideration that ISIS was the moon goddess that I mentioned earlier from ancient Egypt. Okay, but they took that and they flipped that. They flipped the meaning of it. This one says ISIS. Look, this ain't no coincidence, y'all. It's not a coincidence. This was the ISIS Shriners. All right? And all these Shriners wearing fezzes. This picture was taken before Donald Trump even became president. And look, he's with an Arab. All right? This picture is very, very important. Look, this is Yasser Arafat. All right? Now, Yasser Arafat, hand in hand with the Freemason right here. You know he's a Freemason because why? Why? You see the Freemasonic symbol right here. All right? Now, notice the Masonic logo on the individual. because I'm not tripping right here. This is the same symbol. From Albert Pike to this guy, wearing the same symbol. Remember, Albert Pike was wearing the same thing. They have statues with that same symbol on. I'm telling you, this is not by coincidence. This is not by coincidence, y'all. Now, I want to get into the Nation of Islam. Okay? I want to get into the Nation of Islam. And now I'm not going to go heavy on the Nation of Islam on this video. I might save it for another video, but I am going to play some clips right here to show you that the Nation of Islam is not outside of this agenda of the New World Order sanctioned by Rome. All right, the Nation of Islam is still part of Islam, and Islam is sanctioned by Rome. Okay, so this video right here that I'm about to show y'all is a video where hold on, I may have saved this video twice. Yeah, this is a video where Malcolm X exposes the Nation of Islam working with the Ku Klux Klan. All right, and do you think that's by coincidence that they're working with the Ku Klux Klan? So let's go ahead and play the video.
With regret, with great regret.
Hold on just a second.
There's no, with regret. With regret, with great regret, there's no organization in this country that could do more for the struggling black man than the Black Muslim movement if it wanted to. But it has gotten into the possession of a man who's become senile in his old age and perhaps doesn't realize it. And then he has surrounded himself by his children who are now in power and want nothing but luxury and security and comfort and will do anything to safeguard their own interests. So I feel responsible for having played a major role in developing a criminal organization.
Now, note he's talking about Elijah Muhammad, all right, who was the leader of the Nation of Islam. And he basically just, he told you straight out that it is a criminal organization.
It was not a criminal organization at the outstart. It was an organization that had the power, the spiritual power, to reform the criminal. And this is what you have to understand. As long as that strong spiritual power was in the movement, it gave the moral strength to the believer that would enable him to rise above all his negative tendencies. I know, because I went into the movement with more negative tendencies for the betterment of the community by any means necessary. And since tonight we had to get into this old nasty negative subject, we didn't want to bring up our program. We're going to have... But as the African nation got it, we became proud of it. And when they became proud of it, we began to have something effect with it. But
you mentioned conspiracy between the black Muslims and the right wing in this country. Could you elaborate on it?
I mentioned the conspiracy between the Muslims and the right wing in this country. I know for a fact that there is a conspiracy between the Muslims and the Lincoln Rockwell Nazi and also the Ku Klux Klan. There is a conspiracy.
Describe this conspiracy.
Well, the Ku Klux Klan made a deal, or were trying to make a deal with Elijah Muhammad in 1960 in the home of Jeremiah X, the minister in Atlanta at that time, who at present is the minister in Philadelphia. They were trying to make a deal with him to make available to Elijah Muhammad a county, a size tract of land in Georgia or South Carolina, where Elijah Muhammad could then induce Negroes to migrate and make it appear that his program of a segregated state or separated state was feasible. And to what extent these negotiations finally developed, I do not know, because I was not involved in them beyond the period of December 1960. But I do know that after that, Jeremiah, who was the minister throughout the South, could roam the entire South and the Klan not bother him in any way, shape, or form, nor would they bother any of the black Muslims from then on, nor would the black Muslims bother the Klan.
Are you inferring then that because of this conspiracy, the attempt was made upon your life?
The attempt could have been made upon my life. Ask that again.
Are you inferring that because of this conspiracy, the attempt was made on your life?
Not necessarily that conspiracy. The attempt was made upon my life because I speak my mind and I know too much, and they know that I will speak it whether they like it or not. Pardon me?
Are you urging your followers to take any actions against the Muslims?
Am I urging my followers to take action against the Muslims? No. No.
When you say you rely on Allah or you've always been some kind of activist, do you still think that you're going to try to infiltrate the organization and win over some of their supporters?
Am I going to try and infiltrate their organization and win over some of their supporters? No, I have never tried to win supporters from Elijah Muhammad. Since I have left the Black Muslim movement, I've spoken at these rallies. Those who come, those who don't. But I've never gone out of my way to win over any of his followers. And he himself is fearful because he knows that you don't have to exercise too much energy to win his followers. As soon as they know truth and compare the two, and by the way, this is the brother, didn't even see you there, brother. This is Leon Amir, who was Cassius Clay's secretary, whom they beat unmercifully up in Boston. And the court freed the men who beat him. They fined him $100, was it? Yeah, fined him $100. And he was on the inside of the Black Muslim specialty squad. And I know it. And it was he who heard Elijah Muhammad Jr. come to New York when Elijah Muhammad was at the Armory in June of last year. Junior stood up and told the fruit, many of whom are here now also, that I should have been killed, that my tongue should have been put in an envelope and sent back to Chicago by now. And because Fat Joseph had not done it, they demoted him. He remained captain, but Clarence up in Boston was put over Joseph. And Joseph's authority was curtailed. And then Clarence, the captain from Boston, and John, the captain from Springfield, came to New York to assassinate me and came to him to get a silencer and couldn't get it. So the police know this. It's not something that's new. They just wait until the job is done and then they step in.
When you say...
See, Malcolm X is speaking about how the Nation of Islam was, on many occasions they tried to take his life because he was speaking out against what he was finding out about the Nation of Islam. One thing that he spoke out against was Elijah Muhammad, basically being a pedophile, impregnating teenage girls. All right. Another thing was exposing the criminality that was going on within the organization, saying that, hey, they would beat people up within the organization. They would do all kinds of things to punish black men within the organization. The interesting thing about the Nation of Islam, they always talk about how strong of a nation they are, but they never do anything to anybody outside of their nation who basically commits crimes against black society. And they're supposed to be about, uplifting and empowering black society. But in actuality, they're just as corrupt as the organizations within white society. You know what I'm saying? And Malcolm X is basically not making light of it, but he is basically shedding light on this.
Do you know that Elijah Muhammad was behind this?
Yes, now, Elijah Muhammad called all of his officials, national officials, to Chicago in October and ordered them to kill or maim any of his followers who leave him to follow me. Well, when you say, how do I know, many of the brothers who were in at that time are out now. And if this ever come into the court, there are plenty of witnesses who can stand up and testify to it. Pardon?
This specific one. Do you have any...
I'd rather not say at this time.
When you say you know too much, what do you mean?
Who's the next one? Give them 2 more minutes. Give them 2 more minutes and we'll end it.
control it, and you said including the politics.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on
Yes, when I said that no one can clean up our home but us, and that we will clean it up, including and no one should control it but us, including the politics, what do I mean? I mean exactly that. That the black people. You're thinking of who? Powell? Powell's one of us. No, he's not a member of our organization, but when I say he's one of us, I mean he's one of the family. And no one outside the family can get us to talk about it. If we talk about him, we talk about him within the family. But nobody outside the family can instigate us against Powell. Yes, by controlling it politically, I mean that the politics of the community of Harlem should be controlled by those of us who live in Harlem, not by somebody sitting down in Gracie Mansion. Sir? No, but the Organization of Afro-American Unity intends to get involved in every kind of action that's going on in New York City. We don't intend to let anybody downtown influence us in any way, shape, or form. We want the influence to come from Harlem and from other Harlems around the country. Now, this doesn't mean we're anti-outside of Harlem. This doesn't mean we're anti-Bronx or anti-White Plains or anti-white or anti-German or anything like that, but it means we're pro-Harlem. We're pro-ourselves. We want to start doing something for ourselves. That's all it means. It means that we want to stop begging you for your school. We want you to get out of the way and let us straighten out the schools in Harlem.
All right, but as you can see, man, and RIP to one of the realest ones to ever do it, Malcolm X. Now, he spoke out against the Nation of Islam, and as you know, he was murdered, and you know, strong reason to believe that the Nation of Islam had him murdered because they tried to carry out many assassinations on Malcolm X, and they had plenty of motive to have him killed. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't kill him themselves. They definitely helped have him set up, for sure. You know, and Farrakhan had something to do with it, along as other members of the Nation of Islam that were a part of that organization, that criminal organization at the time. Now, it's not so far-fetched to see that, you know, the Nation of Islam was trying to make a deal with the KKK, or they were working with the KKK. Now, here's another video of Malcolm X speaking. Now, this is when Malcolm X spoke against the Nation of Islam, and he exposed Elijah Muhammad of pedophilia. All right, so take a look at this.
Do you love boating? Do you want a hassle-free boating experience? You need to check out Freedom Boat.
Says the Nation of Islam files a lawsuit to reclaim possession of Malcolm X's house in Queens, New York. It's a goddamn shame. After a court appearance regarding the eviction, Malcolm divulges explosive secrets.
And I had stated in a newspaper article about an effort to take my life back in January, and at that time the Muslims denied it.
Why are they threatening your life?
Well, primarily because they're afraid that I will tell the real reason that I'm out of the black Muslim movement, which I never told. I kept to myself. But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls. 6 different teenage girls who were his private personal secretary. The one who first made me aware of this was Wallace Muhammad, Mr. Muhammad's son. And it was their fear that if I remained in the black Muslim movement and this came into the knowledge of his followers, that they would leave him and follow me. A plan immediately was set in motion to take me down, put me out. And the statement that I made about Kennedy was used as a pretext to take me down.
Did you get out of the... What will you take to protect yourself from this threat?
I take no steps. I have a rifle. If anybody comes to my house without a good reason, I intend to try and use it. And that's all.
Okay. See? You see? You had Elijah Muhammad, who was engaging in pedophilia, impregnating teenage girls as an old man, and Malcolm X wasn't standing for it. That was wrong. That was morally wrong. That was unethical. It's immoral, and it doesn't uphold the values that the Nation of Islam was supposed to uphold. And this is the leader. And you know, at first he kept it to himself, but when they tried to take his life away, he said, "You know what? I'm just gonna go. Hey man, I just gotta let it be known." You feel me? And this is what I mean about the Nation of Islam. They've never done anything. They've never punished anybody who was non-black that was outside of the Nation of Islam, even if it was deserving for that person. Like, they've never acted against police that basically engage in police brutality. They've never done anything like that. They've never carried out an attack against anybody who's attacked us. They don't act like a nation. They really don't act like a nation. They act like they act like a nation, but in actuality, you know, the only people that they punish and reprimand are people within the nation that are black. They only punish black people. They've never punished a white person for being racist. And you would expect the Nation of Islam to do something like that. You know, I'm not saying that the Nation of Islam has to be violent. I'm just saying if they wanted to produce justice, you know, the way that they feel that, you know, justice should be produced, meaning if you do wrong unto me, you know what I'm saying, it's an eye for an eye, basically. You never see that happen with the Nation of Islam when it comes to people outside of black race. All right, which is very, very strange. This is very strange because that's what a nation does. That's what we do. If somebody attacks us, basically like in 9/11, somebody attacks us, what do? We go and attack their nations. All right, and that's how we operate as a nation. This is how the Nation of Islam operates, but they operate within the confines of the nation itself. They don't go outside of the nation to impose their will on anybody else. So that shows you how powerful that nation is. And another thing is that the Nation of Islam has been around since the 1930s. I believe the year 1930 is when the Nation of Islam was founded. And I will be doing another video specifically on the Nation of Islam. I'm not going to go too deep on the Nation of Islam in this one, but I just wanted to show you the connection that Islam and Nation of Islam have with Rome and with Freemasonry and with the KKK. Okay, now also let's get into Farrakhan. Farrakhan, you know, he spoke against Malcolm X. As a matter of fact, I don't have this video saying. Let me pull up the video where Farrakhan he spoke on the death of Malcolm X. And here it is right here. I want you to listen to Farrakhan as he speaks on the death of Malcolm X. And you tell me, why would they act against a man like this, but they won't do anything about the people who are involved with, say, like, you know, Flint, Michigan. They didn't do anything against the people who were named in the conspiracy to basically taint the water with lead and Flint. They didn't do anything about that. They didn't reprimand anybody. They didn't produce any justice. There's still lead water in Flint, okay, which is in Detroit. Their headquarters, I believe, is in Chicago. All right. Now pay attention.
But neither are you. But if somebody attack what you love, if you attack my father, my orders come from my love. I want you to hear me good, because every Muslim that loved Elijah Muhammad would have killed Malcolm if we had gotten a chance. No, I don't need no damn applause. I want you to think now.
See what I mean? Motive. That's the motive to kill Malcolm. He said it. Now, he came out and said something like that. Why wouldn't the leaders of the Nation of Islam be arrested on conspiracy to commit murder? That's enough evidence right there to put Farrakhan in jail for conspiracy to commit murder. He just basically said that the whole nation would kill Malcolm if they had the chance, including him, because he's part of the nation. Now, this is after Malcolm had died, of course, yes. But you say something like that as a black man in America, and you don't get arrested, you don't get questioned by the authorities, huh? You don't do no time. They just kind of let you, do these little speaking events and say all this crazy shit. You don't get reprimanded. Clearly, the government is working with Farrakhan, and there's receipts, or not just Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam, and there's receipts to prove that as well. Okay? Farrakhan still gets paid by the federal government. He still gets paid by the federal government. You have to ask yourself, why would the fucking federal government pay Farrakhan? Because Farrakhan is doing exactly what the fuck he's supposed to do in accordance to the New World Order. Keep black folks pacified and to perpetuate the conflict amongst blacks and whites. See, you talk all that shit to get black folks riled up. And then hopefully if black people join the nation, that builds the nation, that can add more human capital to the nation. So you got to understand, the Nation of Islam, ain't nothing national about the Nation of Islam. All right? Ain't nothing really national about the Nation of Islam. It's not a nation. It's an organization. Like I said, it only has 20,000 members. 20,000 members. I mean, you got more people that work for Walmart than part of the Nation of Islam. Okay? So you have to just keep that in mind. Farrakhan is saying all this crazy shit about how everybody in the Nation of Islam would kill Malcolm. Malcolm X came out his own lips and said that the Nation of Islam had made attempts on his life, and you still got people in the Nation of Islam. You still have an existence of a Nation of Islam. Remember, they got rid of the entire Black Panther Party, but the Nation of Islam still walking around. Okay? So this is how you know that they're in cahoots. And this is how you know that the Nation of Islam is sanctioned by, at the top, Rome. And remember, the Nation of Islam was created by a white man. Don't let them fucking fool you. William D. Farad is a white man. If you ever look at a picture of William D. Farad, he white. As a matter of fact, let me show you who William D. Farad is before I play the rest of this video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I just want to play, some key parts where Farrakhan was talking that shit about killing Malcolm X. So, founder of Nation of Islam. Okay? Wallace Fard Muhammad. All right? As you see, this is a white man. This is not no mixed dude or nothing like that. Now, if you look up his information on here, Wallace D. Fraud. All right, if you look at his information on here, you know, they're not going to have his real information on here. You know, it's a lot of mystery surrounding the identity of this man. I'm telling you, it's a lot of mystery surrounding the identity of this man. I'll go into it more deeper when I do videos specifically about the Nation of Islam. All right, but that's not for this video. That video is for another time. Okay, so let me go back to Farrakhan talking about how Malcolm X betrayed the nation and that the Nation of Islam wanted him dead. All right, but I had to show you that the Nation of Islam wasn't even created by black folks. It was created by a white dude.
We didn't incite that. Malcolm incited that in us.
Remember, Malcolm didn't say anything until they started to take until they tried to take his life away from him.
If he'd been dead, he would never have lasted a year. Elijah Muhammad told us, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Told me to my face, leave him alone. And I'm an obedient servant. Yeah, I love Elijah Muhammad enough that if you attack him, I will kill you. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I'm not a killer, but neither are you. But if somebody attack what you love, each one of you in here would become a killer instantaneously. Am I lying? Mother, let somebody look like they're attacking your child. Here's a woman who fought a bear because the bear snatched her baby. And she ran the bear down, screaming until the bear dropped her baby. Love casts out fear. We don't give a damn about no white man law when you attack what we love.
You hear him? We don't give a damn about no white man law when you attack what we love. So what about all the black folks that get killed by police? Y'all for black people? Are y'all for black people? Matter of fact, when's the last time you seen a member of the Nation of Islam get killed by the police? I haven't seen it. Maybe y'all know somebody. I personally don't know anybody who was black and a member of the Nation of Islam that was killed by police. And if that were to occur, what the fuck is the nation going to do? Really? What are they really going to do? I've never seen them stand up for no nigga that was killed by the police. And they want to sit here and attack Malcolm X. And Malcolm X is in his grave right now. They talking about we don't care about no white man law. Like we do what we want. Get the fuck out of here. I've never seen you guys attack anybody outside of the Nation of Islam. Only people y'all attack are black folks that were a part of the Nation of Islam. Just like you did Malcolm and Khalid Muhammad. And look at how everybody's standing up for that bullshit. Farrakhan said all that shit. Farrakhan said all that shit and didn't even get investigated. And he's getting paid out by the government. Doesn't make any sense until you know the history of Islam. And you know what? I can't even listen to this anymore. I think this is proof enough that Nation of Islam had motive to kill Malcolm X, and Farrakhan just let it be known. He let it be known. And also Malcolm X himself, he let it be known. All right. So the Nation of Islam is a corrupt organization, but you have to understand where it comes from. If it has to do anything with Islam, then it has to do with Rome. It has everything to do with Rome. All right. Now, Farrakhan is not for black people. People think, oh, well, Farrakhan, he always speaks for black empowerment, things like that. You know, talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. You know what I'm saying? But I want to play this video where Farrakhan is actually saying that black people are cursed just for being black. And he's talking about the curse of Ham. All right? Some people may know what the curse of Ham is. Now, I'm going to let Farrakhan tell you from his mouth, you know, what the curse of Ham is and how that pertains to black folks. Okay? So more of Farrakhan.
So Shabazz was not permitted to stay in that area, so he took his family into the jungle of East Asia, which we now call Africa, to make a people close to nature. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this is the origin of kinky hair. Because we didn't have kinky hair prior to that. The hair on our head was like the hair on our eyebrows. The hair on your eyebrows straight, the hair on your head is not the same as the hair on your eyebrow.
Let me interject by saying this shit that Farrakhan talking about ain't even true, okay? There is no basis of fact, all right, besides this being a biblical story. There is no basis of fact that black people are cursed. Okay, we are not cursed. Black people, African people, genetically, we hold the genes of every human being. Kinky hair, to be specific. You know, we're very unique with our kinky hair. That's what makes us us. But we don't just have kinky hair. We have straight hair. We have curly hair. We have all kinds of fucking hair. You know what I'm saying? There's Aboriginal black people that have blonde hair and blue eyes, but they're black. You know what I'm saying? So we have light-skinned black people. We have dark-skinned black people. Black folks aren't cursed. You are who your ancestors were. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. Okay? But listen to Malcolm X sit here and try to tell you and try to convince you that you're cursed just for you being black. Just from some biblical story called the curse of Ham.
But the hair of every other people is the same as their eyebrow. Your eyebrow straight, your hair something different. Wouldn't you like the hair on your head to be as straight as the hair on your eyebrow? That's why you so busy frying it. That's why you so busy pulling it. Because your nature tells you that the kink I mean, you know, with I'm black and I'm proud, we got to learn to be proud of kinks. Because most of your family of other black people on the earth, jet black. They didn't have no broad nose and thick lips and kinky hair. They were dark-skinned people, jet black. But they had straight hair, a thinner lip, a thinner nose. But we are marked as a different kind of black person. And we were rejected and despised, not only from the circle of the gods, but we were despised and rejected by all the other dark people of the earth. This is why today black people with kinky hair and broad nose and thick lips are rejected in every society. I want you to hear me well tonight. Yes, sir.
This is a lie. All this shit's a lie. This is not why we are being rejected by the rest of society. We're being rejected by the rest of society because of the New World Order. New World Order is based off of Rome. All right? So you got to understand history. Ancient Egypt was the ruler of the planet. Okay, ancient Egyptians ruled the entire planet. They circumvented the whole entire planet before there was even such thing as a Europe. We had kingdoms all throughout Africa. We had palaces throughout Africa. You understand what I'm saying? We created culture, civilization, language, math, science. We created all of that shit. We built pyramids. We created architecture, engineering. We created we discovered astrology, or created astrology. You know what I'm saying? We discovered astronomy. We understood that the planet was round. We were master seafarers. Okay, this is what the ancient Egyptians were able to, or well, you know, I don't like to just say ancient Egyptians because they were Africans, you know, but I say ancient Egyptians because that's what you mostly, you know, recognize. You mostly recognize or familiar. You're familiar with the ancient Egyptians' accomplishments, but you got to understand the ancient Egyptians were African. They weren't European. They weren't Arabs. They weren't none of that shit. Just because you see Arabs there today, you know, the Arabs are the ones who basically conquered Egypt. And you go to Egypt, they'll admit that shit. They have to admit that shit because when you go look at the art and the hieroglyphics that is left all throughout ancient Egypt, you see nothing but black people. You see nothing but black people. This is why it doesn't make sense to have a movie and have a bunch of Arabs or white people play the ancient Egyptians, because that possibly couldn't have happened because ancient Egypt is way older than what they would lead us to believe. All right, and Europeans and Arabs didn't start coming into play till about like 6,000 years ago, which ain't shit. And them pyramids are way older than 6,000 years. Those pyramids, due to the water damage, even the Sphinx, due to the water damage, the water erosion that you see on there, those structures were built at least 30,000 years ago, maybe even up to 100,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying? That's how old those structures are, period. All right? And we can't even replicate those structures today. Can't replicate those structures today. Sorry. Even with modern technology, we can't replicate the pyramids. We can't replicate the Great Pyramid of Giza. All right? We can't replicate that master masonry. We can't replicate the architecture that they were doing. You know, even after the pyramids, we can't replicate architecture that they were doing. They're building temples, like the Temple of Luxor was built on the side of a mountain. They carved the whole mountain out to build the Temple of Luxor. Okay? So, this whole thing, black people were cursed and this and that and third. No. See, Romans understood how powerful black people were. They had to take away our culture, our language. They had to take away all that stuff because they feared us. They feared what we can do. Not only they feared what we can do, they knew our potential and they wanted to use our potential for their agenda. So this is why us. They have to control us so that we can do their bidding, so that we can build civilization for them. Because if it was up to them to just build civilization for themselves, they wouldn't be able to do it. As you see, white people are about to go extinct. And they understood black people, if anybody could build a great world to live in, black people are at the helm of that. Black people have been doing it since before Europeans were here. Europeans understand that. Rome understood that. The Pope understands that. So racism is used, you know, and micromanaged in different in all nations. And white supremacy is global. You know, and it ain't due to no fucking curse of Ham. And it's not because of biblical prophecy. It's because of Rome fulfilling the new world order. Their new world order. Their one world government. And who's going to be at the top of the one world government? Rome. And they basically have achieved their goal. So that curse of Ham shit that Farrakhan is talking about is bullshit. Okay, you know what? I'm not even going to play the rest of this video. You know, you can watch, you can do your research on this. And as you can see, the name of this video is called Farrakhan Tricking Blacks to Believe They Are Cursed and Inferior to the Other People. Okay? But I had to interject and correct this nigga. All right. Now, also, this video right here is when Louis Farrakhan blames all society problems on Jews. All right, and this is key because y'all have to see this.
How many of you are lawyers? Only one in the house? No wonder we go to jail so much, brother. But at the top of the law profession, who are the top in law? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Any doctors in the house?
The crowd is saying Jews.
Ain't got no doctors? Oh, there's one way in the back. At the top of the medical profession, the top in that are members of the Jewish community. Anybody in media? Who's the top in that field? Anybody a rapper in the house? No, there's rappers. I mean, you can rap, and nothing wrong with that. But at the top of that are those that control the industry. And if you have Hollywood ambitions, Broadway ambitions, who's the top of that? Same people. They are masters in business. Well, I'm not a businessman, I'm a banker. Well, who's the master of the bankers? Talk to me! You don't discredit them because they're masters. You discredit them by the way they use their mastery.
See? Talking shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at the same time, you know, he's not lying, but I'm just proving a point right here. I'm proving a point. Farrakhan would talk all this shit about Jews, right? Just like this video right here.
Now, brothers and sisters, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that a black man was born 20 miles outside of the holy city of Mecca. And when he was a young boy, about 6 years old, he was playing in the sand with two pieces of metal. And he saw one piece of metal drawing the other piece of metal under its power. And there he discovered the law of unlike attract and like repel. And he said to his uncle, when I grow up, I'm going to make a people to rule you. Yaqub, when he became 18, he went to work. And he started teaching and getting followers there in Mecca. Yaqub wanted babies. If a real black child was born, the object was to kill the black and save the lighter child. Then marry the lighter on to a lighter. And keep on grafting until you produce a brown civilization of people. Birth control. That's right. Kill the black, save the brown. Marry the brown on to a lighter brown, kill the darker, save the lighter. Marry the lighter on to the lighter, kill the darker, save the lighter until you bring it to its apex, which is this that you see, this Caucasian. Caucasian mean weak-blooded, weak-boned, stale-face. That pale, what the Indian call a pale man. No? Brother, I am not playing. This is serious. The white man is not the real man. That's right. He's a made human being from you. Yaqub then had to teach them a teaching that would oppose the teachings of God. they already are opposite us in color and opposite us in nature. Why do you say that? If murder was going on the island of Patmos to produce them, and lying was going on to fool the baby away from the mother, kill the darker, save the lighter, then Jesus says in the New Testament, I know you, talking to the Jews, you are of your father the devil. He was a liar and a murderer. And if you look,
you catch that? He just said Jews are the devil, liars and murderers.
Get that white man. He's a lying thing and a murderous human being. There is no human being on earth that has murdered more living things than the Caucasian. He's a murderer and a liar. Take it or leave it, brother. You cannot accept dark rule. So God is ending your world. And the only way, white folks, you can come out of this, because you cannot be reformed. You cannot reform a devil. All the prophets tried and failed. You have to kill the devil.
You hear? You hear what he's saying? You have to kill the devil. The devil cannot be reformed. You have to kill the devil. This is why I'm saying, this is why I say the Nation of Islam has not done anything outside of its organization to people who have wronged black society. And they talking about kill the devil, you have to kill the devil, you got to do this, now the third. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think Farrakhan is just speaking metaphorically. I think he really means kill, like get rid of, destroy. You know, I don't think that's a metaphor that he's saying. I don't think he means that intellectually. I mean, I think that can be included, but I think he really means kill the devil. I think he really means it. He said he cannot be reformed. So if somebody can't be reformed and it's a murderer, then what the fuck do you do? You know, it's like that narrative from The Punisher, you know, Frank Castle. He's always going against somebody that he has to kill, you know, some crazy maniac person who kills, lies, you know what I'm saying? Is part of an organization. I mean, this murdering person who is just going to keep on murdering until they get until they kill everybody that they want to kill, so that they can achieve whatever goal that they want to achieve. Frank Castle would be like, well, shit, I got to stop this man. You know, law enforcement would be like, well, let's just bring this man in. We got to arrest him. You know what I'm saying? But then again, arresting a motherfucker is not going to reform him, because if this dude has the power, this nigga going to get right back out of jail and get to killing again. So arresting him won't do shit. So what do you do to a motherfucker who can't be reformed? You kill him. So I think he really means kill white people. This is how he's delivering this. You know, I'm talking about how he's delivering this. Now, I'm not saying he actually did anything. I'm just saying he's preaching this shit. But they ain't never killed no white people. And he talking all this shit. And I'm gonna go to hold on. Let me show y'all something real quick. As he talking about white men. And matter of fact, let me play this as I am searching for something real quick.
What are you saying, Farrakhan? Why does Muhammad and any Muslim murder the devil? Because he's 100% wicked and will not keep and obey the laws of Islam. He's a snake of the grafted type. Huh? And if he's allowed to live, he'll sting someone else. It is not the color of the white man that's the problem. It's the mind of the white man that's the problem. The color can can live on forever if God wanted to be so. But the mind of white supremacy has to be destroyed. Not that the white man can't survive and make it into the hereafter. He can. But he's got to die here. Muhammad and any Muslim will murder the devil.
Okay. He talking about murdering the devil. Did you hear that? Now, I was over here typing in Farrakhan's son is married to a white woman, and this is the picture of Farrakhan's son with this white wife, and they have a little mixed baby right here. Now you talking all this shit, talking about kill the devil, kill the devil. Let me see if I can get a bigger picture. I think this is the picture I know is Farrakhan's son and his wife. So kill the devil, murder the white man, but your son is married to a white woman and they have a mixed baby. Do you see what I mean? You see how contradictory that is? You see how contradictory that is? You see here's a picture of Farrakhan, and this is his son's wife right down here, and this is the mother-in-law. Yeah, you know, all smiles. You under dig? Now I'm not sure what their ethnicity is. I don't know if they're Jew. I don't know if they classify as Jewish. I wouldn't be surprised. And honestly, I really don't even think it matters. All that shit that Farrakhan talked, I don't really think it matters. But you can see right here, you know, Farrakhan is a big hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. And I'm not going to play any more of this, but I was playing this to prove a point that Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam are not here for the salvation of black people. They're not here for the empowerment of black people. They're just not. Historically speaking, there's no foundation of true sovereignty from the Nation of Islam, because they are sanctioned by the same people who have an agenda to dominate the world. The same people who he talks shit about. White people. All right? Now, he talked all that shit, and then he has a son that has a white wife and all that. But then the Nation of Islam, to this day, has ties with the Church of Scientology. Church of Scientology was created by L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was a known racist. Okay? And just to prove it real quick, Church of Scientology and Nation of Islam. Now look at this. Now this Dianetics book was by L. Ron Hubbard. As you see, the Nation of Islam, look at these motherfuckers pushing Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was a known vile white supremacist. He believed that apartheid should be enforced and black people should be forcibly moved into ghettos and townships. This is where L. Ron Hubbard believed this. And then he makes a book called Dianetics and has an organization called Church of Scientology. It's completely racist. Completely racist. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't stop Farrakhan from doing business with them. And it's not like the Church of Science, and it's not even reciprocal, because you don't see people from the Church of Scientology pushing no goddamn Farrakhan books. You don't see that shit. All you see is the Nation of Islam pushing Church of Scientology shit from L. Ron Hubbard. So he's a hypocrite. The whole nation is just criminal and just hypocritical. So if you're a part of the Nation of Islam, man, you got to hold that. You got to stand on that shit. If you don't want to stand on it, you don't like what I'm saying, then maybe you should reevaluate whether or not you should be a Muslim, let alone a black Muslim. So now, also, I mentioned about Khalid Muhammad. Khalid Muhammad was part of the Nation of Islam, and he was just as charismatic and inspirational as Malcolm X, pretty much. You know, but Farrakhan exiled Khalid Muhammad from the nation. You see? And why did he exile Khalid Muhammad from the nation? Let me show you why. Let me show you why. This is an article written by Washington Post. Okay? Now, former high-ranking Nation of Islam spokesman Khalid Abdul Muhammad demoted by nation leader Louis Farrakhan for his harsh criticism of Jews. Now, how the hell are you going to fucking demote somebody for having harsh criticism of Jews when you yourself, Farrakhan, have the harshest criticism of not only Jews, but all white people? And, okay, so this is ridiculous. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? You talk all that shit about white people, how they're devils. You talk all this shit about Jews specifically, how they're liars, they're murderers. You know what I'm saying? And then when somebody within your nation says the same thing, then you're going to sit here and demote him. Not just demote him, you're going to condemn him and kick him out of the nation. Okay? Now, it said, he was demoted by nation leader Louis Farrakhan for his harsh criticism of Jews, Catholics, and others, told a packed auditorium tonight, and this was around February 6, 1994, that his punishment does not signify a split within the organization despite the wishes of our enemies. Okay, so he had harsh criticism against his enemy, but you demoted him for it. And understand, this is kind of like the same thing that they did with Malcolm X when he had his criticism about John F. Kennedy. Now, in his second speech since Farrakhan rebuked him Thursday, Muhammad also told a cheering crowd, "I did not come to Baltimore to teach black people to hate white people, but I did come here to teach you to love your black brothers." Although his words could not make blacks hate whites, he said the 400 years of slavery and abuse and misuse that blacks have suffered under whites could cause hatred. If all the white folks have done to you hasn't made you hate them, deeds and actions speak louder than words. Muhammad was one of the series of speakers in a two-day salute to slain black leader Malcolm X in conjunction with Black History Month. The tribute was led by Baltimore psychiatrist Patricia Newton at tonight's event, at which about 400 people were turned away. She welcomed the standing room only audience by saying, "We come in love, peace, and harmony." In his talk, Muhammad said he and Farrakhan have been wrongly accused of racism and intolerance. He said that Malcolm X, a progenitor of Nation of Islam, set an example of tolerance which members of the organization follow today. Speaking to a mostly black audience in a rented 375-seat auditorium at Baltimore City, a community college, Muhammad described Farrakhan as his spiritual father, whose punishment he has accepted. "This is the most difficult and trying time in my life," he said, "but I'm a soldier. I follow a divine chain of command." He said Nation of Islam opponents would love to see a split in the hierarchy of the organization, but there is no division, he said. There is no Khalid Muhammad without Louis Farrakhan. You can't separate us. You will not hear one word against Louis Farrakhan here. All right? This is what Khalid Muhammad said. Muhammad was publicly reprimanded Thursday by Farrakhan for describing Jews, Catholics, homosexuals, and others in vile and repugnant language during a November 29th speech at Keene College in Union, New Jersey. But Farrakhan distanced himself only from the tone of the comments, not their content, which is bullshit. Even the tone of the content doesn't match the tone of your content, Farrakhan. You call Jews fucking the devil and liars and murderers. And you said that it could not be reformed and had to be killed. Okay? No matter what kind of tone you put that in, that's pretty fucking harsh. You should have been demoted for that shit, Farrakhan. Somebody should have demoted your ass. You should have demoted your damn self. All right? Now, he did not elaborate on which of Muhammad's assertions he agreed with. Of course he didn't. While condemning Muhammad's delivery, Farrakhan praised his dedication, saying he was brilliant, highly gifted, committed to helping black people. Farrakhan said he had stripped Muhammad of his role as top spokesman and national assistant in the organization's Chicago headquarters. So he was your top spokesman. He said harsh criticism of Jews, just like you did, and you demoted him. I sense a little jealousy there, Farrakhan. I'm just saying. That's what it looked like. The Nation of Islam's leader's action came after a firestorm of criticism erupted over Muhammad's comments, particularly from the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. Remember, the ADL is the same British organization that basically kept Albert Pike's statue in Washington, D.C. when black people tried to lobby to get rid of it. All right. Comments particularly from the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, but also from African American leaders nationally. Although Farrakhan and other Nation of Islam leaders have been accused over the years of making racist and anti-Semitic statements, the organization also has won praise from some big city leaders of its efforts in developing black businesses and campaigning against drugs. In his Keene College speech, Muhammad called Jews bloodsuckers of the black nation and the Pope a no-good cracker. He also called on black South Africans to kill everything white 24 hours after a black majority takes power in South Africa. Okay, so he's talking the same shit Farrakhan was. So he was being a loyal member of the Nation of Islam. He was being a loyal member of the Nation of Islam, and clearly he was influenced and inspired by Farrakhan's words, and he took it to the max. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. There should be nothing wrong with that. You feel me? He was following, his leadership, and then he was punished for it. Now, this is what I want to get to right here. Now, Khalid Muhammad was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment and served about 1 year for his fraud conviction. At his sentencing, U.S. District Judge J. Owen Forrester said he had received a letter from Farrakhan. Listen, this is the most important part of the fucking article. At his sentencing, U.S. District Judge J. Owen Forrester said he had received a letter from Farrakhan vowing that Muhammad would not be allowed to continue teaching within the Nation of Islam ministry. Now, why the hell would Farrakhan take the time to write U.S. District Judge J. Owen Forrester, this man right here, and just to be clear, that ain't no black man, okay? Hold on. U.S. District Judge Owen J. Forrester. I think that's what it is. This is the guy, and he died at 75. This is the guy. This is the guy he wrote. He wrote this man. He wrote the devil. So Farrakhan took time to write a letter to the devil condemning one of his members of the Nation of Islam. I call him the devil because that's what Farrakhan said. He said that white folks were the devil. He cannot be reformed. But Farrakhan just wrote a letter to the devil condemning condemning his top spokesman. Condemned his top spokesman that he demoted for speaking the same shit that he speaks about devils. And he go write a letter to the devil condemning Khalid Muhammad. Condemning Khalid Muhammad. Vowing that Muhammad would not be allowed to continue teaching within the Nation of Islam ministry. And that's all he wanted. That's all Khalid Muhammad wanted. He wanted to teach within the Nation of Islam ministry. He wanted to be a part of the Nation of Islam. He lived for being a part of the Nation of Islam. Farrakhan took that shit away from him. Okay? Now, Khalid Muhammad, he spoke about Farrakhan. All right? Now, listen to Khalid Muhammad speaking about Farrakhan.
No, brother, I didn't like what my father did to my little brother, turning Malik Shabazz like that in front of everyone. I was the first to call the million. We all love you for that. And if you heard the tape, saw Brother Clemson Brown's video or any of the others, or if you were there, you know we gave props to Minister Farrakhan from the beginning to the end. And if you visited our website on the World Wide Web, we invited him. I didn't expect him to come. And I'm nobody's puppy dog. I'm not going to tuck my tail and go sniffing behind nobody. Louis Farrakhan didn't teach me that way. Much of what I am by the power of God and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and what they put in him, he put it in me. And that's the way I'm going to be from here on out. I'm not changing. I got one letter from Minister Farrakhan in 5 years. One letter in 5 years, though I had written him. I called him repeatedly. You've heard me talk about it right at the UAM forum. For years, he set up meetings and postponed the meetings. When I was in the hospital, shot down like a dog, he never visited me, never sent me a letter, never sent me a postcard, not a penny, not a nickel, not a dime the whole damn time. I know what happened between Malcolm and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and how Malcolm's letters were being intercepted, how his calls were being intercepted. So I know when to reach my father, so I would call him early in the morning when I knew he would answer the phone. And I would sometimes speak directly to him, and he would be just as nice and promise that we would meet, and there were no meetings. I stopped doing that, and I said everywhere he was going to speak, I would go and sit on the front row or the second row to say, here I am. Will you see me? Can we talk? Can we work this out? I want to come back. Remember how dedicated I've been. Remember how committed I've been, how devoted I've been. Remember, I was with you when your son was not with you. I was with you when your daughters were not with you. I was with you when none of the Nation of Islam was with you. Remember me. I'm the one who used to pack 2 pistols to make sure that nobody would do anything to you. I'm the one who would stand next to you with a gun and a Bible. I'm the one who was willing to take a bullet for you if an enemy stood up to shoot you down. I would sit on the front row, the second row, begging, almost pleading. What in the hell do I look like 5 years later, calling a man saying we're having the Million Youth March? Will you come and help us, please, sir? Hell no. We still invited him because it was the right thing to do. But we don't have to consult you. We consult God and God alone, God damn it.
And there you have it. And there you have it. You see how Farrakhan treated Khalid Muhammad? But he writing letters to the U.S. District Judge vowing that Khalid Muhammad couldn't be in the Nation of Islam. Why are you writing letters to somebody outside of the nation about the nation's affairs? The fuck is that? You're writing to a white man affiliated with the U.S. government, your enemy, your adversary, your nemesis. And your letter, the content of that letter is about the Nation of Islam's affairs. Because remember, that's your top spokesman. Why was it so important for you to write this letter about the Nation of Islam's affairs, about your affairs for your organization? What was the purpose of that? What did you have to gain from that as a nation? Did you do that of your own accord, or did you let the nation know that you was going to write the letter to the U.S. judge? Did you sit in a board meeting and do this, or did you do this all by yourself? Because it said Farrakhan wrote the letter. It didn't say the letter was sent to him on behalf of the nation. It said Farrakhan wrote the goddamn letter. All right. Also, this is the last thing I want to show you. Remember when I showed you Yasser Arafat? Remember when I showed you Yasser Arafat? Hold on, let me go up. Let me show you Yasser Arafat one more time. Let me see, where is he at? Yasser Arafat, where you at? Right here. Remember Yasser Arafat, this picture I showed you? And remember he was hand in hand with this Freemason right here? And he's rocking the Scottish Rite Freemasonry symbol. Okay, Yasser Arafat. These are the ties that he has. You know, you have a cardinal here, you know, from Rome. You can tell he's from Rome by his dress. Feel me? A Roman priest. I think there's another Roman priest back here. And right here, you have a Scottish Rite Freemason right here. He's wearing the Scottish Rite Freemasonry symbol. Now, this is the last thing I want to show you. This is President Arafat meeting with Farrakhan.
And we spoke in details all the difficulties which we are facing and how to push for the peace process and to protect it. And we are very glad to have this opportunity.
I think the United States of America has a great role to play because the United States has great leverage with the government and people of Israel. After all, billions of dollars of American taxpayer money come to Israel each and every year. And this should give President Clinton enough leverage to insist that certain things be done, that the peace process be put back on track. However, if Mr. Clinton fails to do his part, then of course this could escalate into other cycles of violence which we do not wish to see. People oppressed have a right to struggle. However, the unity of the Muslim world backing President Arafat would make it unnecessary for any individual or group to engage in any behavior that takes the lives of innocent people for political purposes.
Okay. Just a little information on President Arafat. Yasser Arafat. Okay? This is him. Palestinian political leader. He was chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization from 1969 to 2004 and president of the Palestinian National Authority. Ideologically an Arab nationalist, he was a founding member of the Fatah political party, which he led from 1959 until 2004. All right. Arafat was born to Palestinian parents in Cairo, Egypt, which he spent most of his youth and studied at the University of King Fahd. Now, if you know the history about the Arab invasions, you know the history about the Arab slave trade and all of this shit. You know the history of how the Islamic conquests and how they took over those regions. And this is why, you know, Jews and Arabs or Muslims are in constant conflict over those territories. You know, this was all set up by Rome. Okay, and then you have and then this guy, this president, has ties with Freemasons, and then this dude meets with Farrakhan. So you got to understand, man, they're all in cahoots with each other, man. And the people that are at the helm of this, the people who are at the top that are running this shit, is the Pope and it's Rome. The powers that be are Romans and Jews, specifically Greeks, because that's who Jews really are. Greeks. The real Jews are Greeks. And they're not Arabs either, they're white. This is why, you know, a lot of the corporations over here are owned by Jews. And if you look at a Jew, you'd be like, well, shit, what makes a Jew a Jew? You have Arab Jews and you have white Jews. But these are white Jews over here that are flourishing, that own all the businesses over here, that have all the capital over here in the United States. And it's so funny how Jews are running everything. They own everything. They own all these universities, which are the highest educational institutions here in America. But guess what is at every university? Greek fraternities. Why Greek? Think about it. Why Greek? Because the Jews are the Greeks. Okay? And if you look up Rome, just real quick, this is the last things I'm going to say before I end this video. Where does Latin come from? Now look, the Latin alphabet is derived from the Etruscan and Greek alphabets and ultimately from the Phoenician alphabet, okay, which is African. Ultimately, that's a language that was given from the or given by the ancient Egyptians. All right. Now, Latin was originally spoken in the area around Rome, known as Latium. All right. So Latin is a language that's based in Rome, consisting Greek alphabets. Interesting. 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 So you know who's running all of this. It's the Romans and the Jews, aka the Greeks. All right? And at the top of it, the people at the top are the Romans. The most powerful man in the world is Pope. Okay? Now, if you made it all the way through this video, there is no fucking way that you can still subscribe to either Islam or the Nation of Islam. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. I didn't even get into the actual doctrine. All right, this is strictly about the history of how Islam came about and what Islam is used for and how it connects to the Nation of Islam. Okay, now that was a mouthful, as you already know. You know, that was a mouthful. And let me come back to my screen to end this, to conclude this. Now, say all this to say this. It's important that we know history, and it's important that you don't just go along to get along. It's important that you're aware of the historical foundations that led to your current position. Because you don't want to subscribe yourself to something to where ultimately the agenda goes against your self-interest, or your best interest. You don't want to subscribe yourself to something and lo and behold, whatever you're subscribing to is connected to the damn KKK or to the Nazis or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, would you subscribe to the Bible if you knew Hitler wrote it? No, you wouldn't. Why? Because you know what Hitler fucking did. And shit, any book that you would know of that he wrote, you're not going to even lay a finger on it. Not unless you want to analyze it for what it is so you can understand the agenda behind it. But you're not going to subscribe to the book and be a follower of it if that agenda goes against your best interest, it goes against the interest of your people. So let this be a lesson to those who are, leaning toward that direction of subscribing to any religion, not just Islam, Christianity, Judaism, all that shit. Don't just believe it because a lot of other people believe it, or don't just go with it because a lot of other people are going with it. Do your research, understand what these doctrines are here for, understand the agenda. They put this shit in front of your face in plain sight. New World Order. We're already here. They've already won. They've already established it. We are at World War III at this very moment, and they have used Islam. Just like Albert Pike said, even before World War I came about, and he died in 1891. World War I wasn't until 1900s. And he was already talking about World War III and utilizing Islam for the Third World War. This is not by coincidence, all right? So I appreciate those who watched this video all the way through. Much respect to y'all. That shows that you definitely want to learn. That shows that you are a scholar. You do have the qualities of a scholar, and this is just the beginning of your journey. This is just the beginning. Once you acquire the knowledge, now it's about application. Now, how can you apply this knowledge for your benefit? Well, understand what they did in order for them to bring about their New World Order. Understand how they organized and see if you can organize your family and start with that. Organize your family and your extended family and establish an agenda that best suits you and your family or your people, your community's best interests, and work towards that on a day-to-day basis. Because understand, this agenda has been worked on a day-to-day basis from the powers that be. They've been working 24/7 to bring about an agenda that they knew that they weren't even going to be alive to see. And this is what we have to do in order for us to take the power back. All right. So this is all I got to say, man. This is a mouthful. Like I said, I appreciate those who watch this video all the way through. This is a lot of information. I definitely want to do a video specifically on the Nation of Islam. I'm saving it for a later date. All right. If there's other content that you would like me to cover, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. Hit this like button if you feel this video was informative or educational. All right. If you feel that it changed your life, man, hit this like button. Let me know. Share this video. Maybe this can inspire somebody else to do research about the religion, and you know, this can save them from being part of a criminal organization. You feel me? So, like I said, man, do your research, love yourself, know your history, and everything will be all right, man. Everything will be all right. Now, I understand that this new world order is coming about, or is pretty much here, but we still have the power to make change, because anything is possible in a world full of impossibilities. Anything is possible, period. We can bring about change, but we have to get on code in order for us to bring about the change that we want. We got to be on code. We got to understand why we have to get on code in the first place. And then once we understand the why we need to get on code, we'll just automatically or naturally start to get on code. Once we have a reason to get on code, we'll get on code. But you got to do your research. You got to do your research, man. All right? So y'all have a good one. It's your boy 100, a.k.a. Chaz, a.k.a. Orion, man. I love y'all. This has been a great lecture. I had a good time doing this. You know, I got even more receipts. I honestly, I really got way more receipts. I couldn't even put all of them in there. I couldn't even put all of them in here. You dig? I had to kind of shorten it up. But let me know what y'all think about this video. All right? All right. Y'all have a good one. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.